Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching second and final part of What If Sakura travel back in time for Naruto. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
The hell you were, bastard. They were expecting more reinforcements from the Leaf, even Hunter Ninja from Stone, but instead they were met with two brats who had no apparent sense of style. A small pink-haired girl in a bright red battle dress, and a shorter blonde boy in a hideous orange jumpsuit. The twins turned at the same time as two figures landed in front of them. What the hell are they teaching these kids in the Leaf Village about blending in? Are you serious? Just a couple of brats? Jiro said. These two might be decoys, Ichiro thought, looking around the forest for more enemies. Then just deal with them and hurry, he said, leaping towards the treetops that led to the borders of the Earth and Fire countries. Hey, return here. As he leapt after him, Naruto yelled. Jiro said, "No you don't, kid," as he emerged in front of Naruto with his fist cocked back, prepared to strike with a powerful blow. However, before he could do so, a fist struck his face, sending him crashing into a nearby tree. Go, Naruto, I'll take care of this and support you as soon as I can. We cannot allow them to cross the border with Hinata. All right. I will not allow that idiot to take her. He turned back to Sakura and said, "Be careful," before launching himself after his target and heading for the trees. She turned to face her opponent and whispered, "Be careful." His normally tan skin turned pale gray, white as he activated his bloodline, making Jiro look like a living statue. Jiro could not believe what had happened. He had never been hit so hard in his life, at least not without having his bloodline active. That really hurt. He slowly stood up and turned to face the brats, only to discover that the blonde one had disappeared, most likely to pursue his brother. Great, he thought to himself, he was never going to hear the end of this one. Sakura watched as her opponent stood up and immediately activated his bloodline. She knew that medical jutsu would be useless if he was able to nullify the gentle fist. Her genjutsu was good, but she wasn't a master like Kurenai, so if she was beaten, that wasn't good either. She cursed the weakness of her current body once more. If she had been in her old body, she could have pounded this guy into rubble, but her current body didn't have the strength to do so. She was able to avoid the attack with ease, but she noticed two things. First, he had made a large crater, so his strength had increased dramatically. Second, his speed had decreased as much. His bloodline must have made his body weigh much more, slowing him dramatically. It's a shame she didn't have any long-distance jutsu that would affect his armor. He was going to use his ninjutsu after all. Jiro went through hand signals and yelled, "Earth style! Earth spikes!" after noticing the girl's speed and avoiding his kick. That was a close one, Sakura thought as she felt the movement beneath her feet and jumped just as the earth spikes were about to impale her. Jiro scoffed and said, "You're pretty fast for a brat, but I hope you don't think you actually have a chance of beating me." Jiro tried to punch Sakura, but she was too quick for him to land the blow. His bulk made it more difficult to hit the smaller, quicker girl. Sakura could see his frustration growing as his rudimentary taijutsu was failing miserably, and she was trying to figure out how she was going to defeat him. "That's it," he shouted, "Earth style. Earth clone jutsu. I'm not wasting any more time with you, little girl." Three earth clones emerged from the ground surrounding Sakura before she could react. "Damn. I need to come up with something quickly." The clones didn't waste any time in attacking. She thought the first one missed with a slow punch that was easy to dodge, the second attempted a kick that she could only avoid with her advanced reflexes, and the third was too much for her to handle and landed solidly with a strong kick to her left side that sent her tumbling to the ground in agony. "Do you see now, little girl? Haha, this is what separates a true ninja like me from a brat like you." Sakura stood shakily, remembering that the hit had been painful but not as bad as what Tsunade had done during her training. She looked up to see the clones charging at her, and this time she was ready. They threw kicks and punches at her, and she managed to avoid all but the last one, which managed to graze her right side just above her right hip. A panting Sakura crouched to her knees, trying to heal her bleeding wound, and was pleased to see that although the last attack had hurt her, it had also eliminated the clones. She looked at her opponent, wondering if he was upset about losing his clones, and he was grinning broadly. "Girl, it appears that you have nearly reached your breaking point." As he hurled more earth spikes at her, he said, "Why don't I end your suffering?" Sakura knew that she needed to move quickly because the longer she stayed here, the longer Naruto and Hinata would be in danger. She also knew that although Naruto was strong, he was no match for an experienced Jonin at his current level. "I have to try something, but what?" She finally thought of something. "Here goes nothing," as she dodged another set of spikes. "Stop," she said, making a single hand gesture. The response was immediate. The seals in the sweatbands she wore on her ankles and wrists glowed as the chakra within them was suddenly released. Jiro, who could not believe that a girl so small and frail could generate so much chakra that he could see it enveloping her, watched as the girl who had been evading his attacks was engulfed in it. Impossible. She had run out of legs, she was beaten by me. Where is the source of all this chakra? He pondered. I apologize, but I have run out of time to waste here. As she started going through hand signals, she said, I have friends that need my help. Jiro positioned himself defensively in anticipation of her assault. Earth style. Diamond dust jutsu. Sakura slammed her hands to the ground and watched as the ground in front of her started to glow. Slowly at first, but then with increasing speed, a white cloud began to rise off the ground, and with a motion of her hand, the white cloud shot towards Jiro. He could only tighten his stance as the white mist swirled around him and clouded his vision, but nothing happened. His eyes were becoming bothersome, and as he stood there, the dust in his mouth and nose was making things worse, but he could handle it when he started to get really worried. The mist seemed to just disappear. Jiro coughed a few times in an attempt to clear his blurred vision, but it didn't seem to help much. He could tell that the girl had not moved from her spot, even though he could only see her as a bright red blur in front of him. Was that it? Cough, what was your grand scheme? I'm coughing and getting some dust in my eyes. Cough, cough, what's that going to do? Cough, cough. Despite his inability to see, Sakura looked him in the eye and said, You're deaf, with a tone of deadly finality. When he started coughing once more, he said, I'm not dead yet. You're right, she said with a sly smile, raising her hand to pretend to check a fake wristwatch. My watch is running 10 seconds ahead. When Jiro looked at his hands, he could hardly see anything but a red blur that could only mean blood on them. What the, cough cough cough, was all he could manage to say as he was struck by a coughing fit so severe that it knocked him to his knees. Cough, cough, you did hell do me harm. His throat, lungs, and eyes all started to burn as he asked in horror. I created that particular jutsu. I transform the ground into something that resembles dust by using a lot of my chakra, but it's not dust at all. It's actually tiny pieces of glass that I've sharpened to a deadly edge. Your life was forfeited the instant you inhaled them. I attacked your internal organs instead of your armor because I knew I couldn't penetrate it. Your insides are being destroyed by the glass fragments as I speak. What I said was true. You've passed away. Sakura never realized that a pair of crimson eyes had witnessed the entire scene, but she turned around and went to find Naruto as Jiro lay on the ground dying, his own blood filling his lungs, each breath bringing him closer to death. As he frantically attempted to catch up to the man who had taken Hinata, Naruto leapt across the treetops at incredible speeds. With the fox providing the necessary chakra, he eventually located the man as he landed in front of the river that divided the lands of fire and earth. Ichiro turned to see the foolish-looking blonde from the camp instead of his twin brother as he had anticipated. You really came after me? What exactly do you believe you are capable of? He placed Hinata on the ground and strode over to Naruto, saying, My father probably already killed the girl and now I'll just kill you, fool. If you guys think you're getting away, you're the only idiot here. Naruto screamed, I'll just kick your ass and take Hinata back. Ichiro burst out laughing. Is that correct? He laughed and said, Well, then let's get this over with. As Naruto surrounded him with shadow clones and charged at him, Ichiro, the stronger of the twins, wasted no time in eliminating his opponents, using the Earth Avalanche Jutsu to eliminate all of Naruto's clones. Earth Style, Earth Spears Jutsu, was said as Naruto was considering his options. Naruto's wall was up just before the first spears hit, but it was not strong enough to block all of them, so he was able to jump out of the way. I'll have to thank Sakura for teaching me that jutsu, he thought as he looked up to see several spears rising from the ground and shooting directly at him. Naruto responded instinctively and performed some hand signals. Earth Style, Mudwall Jutsu. He didn't have much time to think, though, because Ichiro was on him, throwing a flurry of punches, several of which connected, sending Naruto crashing to a rock. Are you finished? Was that all you had after wasting so much time and effort trying to find me? Pathetic? No way. Naruto said, wiping the blood from his mouth as he stood up. Until I've finished kicking your ass, I won't be done. He shouted as he created two clones and tried attacking his opponent from all sides. All three Narutos connected with a punch only to jump back, clutching their hands in pain. What the hell? When he noticed that Ichiro's bloodline was active, Naruto thought, that must be his blood limit. Dude, I'm sick of your foolishness. There is no chance for you to defeat me. In comparison to me, you are nothing more than an insect. Had you been wise, you would have hurried as quickly as possible back to your village. You had to try to be the hero, though, because you genuinely believe that one of you can defeat me in your delusional mind. You believe that your little friend could be saved. I'm selling her to the Cloud Village for a fortune, so that won't happen. Kid with a sly smile on his face, he said, and just for all the grief you stupid leaf punks have given me, I'm going to personally introduce her to her new duty as a piece of breeding stock. She will only be that when she arrives in the Cloud Village, after all. You won't? As his biggest wave of shadow clones materialized, prepared for battle, Naruto screamed. That's it, I've finished this game Earth style. Jutsu with Stone Rain. As a huge chunk of Earth rose to the sky, the Naruto army watched in disbelief as it started to compress itself into a sphere that was floating above them. It's finished. Ichiro roared as the Earth sphere started to shoot pebble-sized stones at a dizzying rate in a matter of seconds. Tiny stones were attacking Naruto and all of his clones, and when the smoke cloud that the dying clones produced when they were dispelled was gone, there was only a heavily bleeding Naruto left. As the bastard smirked at him and proceeded to pick up Hinata, Naruto, unable to believe what was happening, tried to move but his body would not listen. He was covered in blood from the dozens of tiny stones that had struck his body, with his arms and legs taking the brunt of the blows, but he was hit all over. Ichiro heard a forced whisper after he had put Hinata on his shoulder. Gee, give her B back. Even when you're about to die, you won't listen, huh? He shook his head incredulously as he turned to see the blonde idiot trying to crawl towards him. I'm not returning anything. I will actually fulfill my promise to you. Normally, I like older women like your attractive sensei, but after seeing what I'll do to her, I think I'll let you die. He started to walk toward the river, but before he reached the water, he felt a huge chakra spike, knowing what they'll do to her for the rest of her life. That sounds like proper punishment for you, he said. Give her BAAACK. When Hinata opened her eyes slowly, she realized that they had been attacked. Sakura and Naruto had not been at the camp at the time, for some reason, and that the missing ninja had overpowered them. Even Kurenai's sensei had been beaten, but she was unable to recall anything else. A roar of ferocity jolted her out of her reverie, and she saw that she was in chains on the ground on a riverbank, and that her bindings would have to wait because a battle was raging. Ichiro's body was covered in wounds and his blood dripped heavily onto the ground before he could form a defense, and he started to feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. Fear. Fear of this beast. After his life, the feral Naruto vanished in a blur, his clawed hand slicing across Ichiro's chest, gouging deeply, his bloodline useless to stop the monster that attacked him. In an attempt to put distance between himself and the monster, Ichiro jumped back, but he was too careless and stumbled on a rock. Falling to the ground on his back, Naruto was on him in an instant, hammering him into the ground as punch after punch rained down on him until his entire world turned black. Hinata's eyes widened as the monstrous-looking Naruto continued to beat on the obviously dead ninja, his face and hands covered in blood as he continued to punch away, the dead ninja's blood spraying morbid crimson patterns all over the ground. Something had happened to my sweet, happy Naruto. I had never seen him like this, filled with rage and bloodlust, and then there was that vile red chakra that was sounding him. When Sakura sensed the fox's chakra being released, she took a soldier pill and sped up as fast as she could because she needed to get to them and she couldn't let them go again. Sakura arrived at the riverbank just in time to see Naruto, who was encircled by the fox cloak, beating the other twin into mangled pieces of flesh based on the amount of blood on Naruto. The man had been dead for a few minutes at the very least. She was about to attempt to comfort him when she noticed Hinata approaching Naruto. No, as she rushed to try to stop her, she thought, he's not himself right now. After escaping her restraints, Hinata approached Naruto in silence. She was about to speak when he abruptly stopped and turned to face her, and she could only gasp in surprise at his blood-covered face. But what really frightened her were his blood-red eyes, the eyes they had grown to love with all their hearts. Before she could come up with another idea, Naruto threw her to the ground. Sakura yelled for Naruto to stop after witnessing him take down Hinata, but he didn't appear to hear her. He gazed into the blood-red cat-like eyes with clear lavender eyes for what seemed like an eternity before his eyes turned blue and rolled to the back of his head, and he passed out from exhaustion as abruptly as it had begun. Are you okay, Hinata? Yelled Sakura as she made it to them. She turned Naruto to his back and began to run diagnostic jutsu to see if he was okay. He's going to be fine, she said with a sigh. Sakura turned to the still shocked Hinata and asked again, Are you okay, Hinata? Whatever happened to Naruto, Sakura? What were those red eyes and that chakra? Not right now, Hinata. I'm not able to tell you yet. After giving her friend a long look, Hinata nodded. Not yet. Later, though? I will when the time is right. We must keep this quiet for the time being, okay? Since what you witnessed is a S-class secret, no one can know. Hinata nodded, unsure of what to think, so she would remain silent for the time being. Whatever it was, it had to do with Naruto, and if it had to do with him, she would find out. She only hoped that Naruto would be okay. because Naruto's previous expression scared her to her very core, but he was still Naruto, her Naruto, and she would believe in him no matter what. As the Hokage read the mission report, Hinata, Kurenai, and Team 7 stood before him. There was enough tension in the room to choke on. Technically, the mission had been successful, but judging by the old Hokage's growing frown, he wasn't entirely satisfied with their performance. At last, the Hokage put the reports down and gazed at them without comment. So all targets were terminated and all civilians rescued? Yes, sir, all bandits and enemies ninja were killed and all civilians were recovered and relocated to a nearby village, replied Kurenai. And there were no major injuries to the hostages? That's correct, the only major injuries were suffered by Sasuke Uchiha, but the treatment he received by Sakura Haruno was enough to heal most of those injuries. Before we returned to the village, I was very impressed with not only Sakura's but Naruto's performance during the mission, stated Kurenai. The Hokage glared at Sakura and Naruto and said, yet they made what could have been a fatal mistake, not only for yourselves but for the mission. Kurenai opened her mouth to reply, but the Hokage stopped her with a raised hand. Don't worry, Kurenai. I will be speaking to their sensei about what exactly he has been teaching them. If that's how they behave during a mission, you and your student deserve some rest. Take a couple of days off before resuming training with your team. You both can leave, he replied, ensuring that it was not a demand. Kurenai said, yes sir, before escorting Hinata from the office. Sasuke, I want you to go to the hospital and have them take a look at you to make sure you're okay. The Uchiha countered, but I'm fine, I don't need to go to the hospital. Indulge me then, if they say you're fine, you can go home. You may leave as well. Before leaving the office, Sasuke gave a whatever grunt, but not before giving his teammates one final glance. The Hokage then glared at the two surviving genin, causing Naruto to swallow. One of you want to explain to me why the two of you left camp in the middle of the night, without permission or informing your commanding officer? He inquired. Well, why Uchiha, Naruto said. Sakura calmly remarked, Naruto needed to tell me about the nine-tailed fox. The Hokage's eyes widened a little before turning to face Naruto, who nodded nervously that it was true before turning to face Sakura and asking. The Hokage squeezed the bridge of his nose and closed his eyes. And how do you feel about Naruto's secret? It doesn't matter to me. Naruto is Naruto regardless of what he holds inside him, Sakura said, turning to face the Hokage after grinning at Naruto. Sakura's green eyes captivated the Hokage, who was struck by the genin's determination. He grinned at her and replied, I'm glad to hear that. I just wish you could have picked a better time for that discussion. You were aware that I could have both of your ninja licenses for this? He inquired when the Hokage noticed Naruto in a panic. He went on, I won't take them this time, but half of your pay will be deducted as punishment, he replied. Naruto whimpered, half, knowing how many bowls of ramen that would cost him. Yes. The Hokage replied. What about the bounty on the missing ninja we killed? Replied Sakura. Bounty? The Hokage inquired. Yes. They were in the bingo book. If I remember correctly, there was a bounty of 25,000 ryo for each of them. It's not much as far as missing ninja go, but is more than what we would get paid for a C-rank mission, she replied calmly. The Hokage realized she was right after going through his paperwork. I see you're right, Sakura. The bounty will not be touched except for the processing and collecting fee that is usually charged. The money and the rest of your mission pay will be deposited into your accounts, said the man. Sakura inquired, are we excused? The Hokage said, yes, that will be all. You are both excused. He turned to his open window after they had both left the room. You can come in, Kakashi. Kakashi materialized before the elderly Hokage in a whirl of wind. What do you think? I suspected she would find out soon enough. I'm glad she took his secret so well, replied Kakashi. Yes, I suppose that could have ended far worse than it did. So how did your mission go? I located the small village where the Haruno family originated as instructed. It is located in the most southern part of Fire Country near the border of Tea Country. From the information I gathered from the town elders and others who remembered them before they moved to the Leaf Village, the Harunos were not native to that village. Is that so? Yes, from what I was able to gather, Sakura's great-grandmother moved to the village near the end of the First Great War. Did you get her name? Shino Haruno? I'm afraid I've never heard of her. So, were you able to gather any information on her husband? I'm afraid not. Nobody ever met her husband and they wouldn't talk much about her either. Did you find out anything? I found that she was a very kind and beautiful woman. She provided medical services for everyone at no charge. She was well liked by everyone, which is why many who did remember her would not say much to me. I see. I suppose that is why Sakura is so gifted in the medical arts. It runs in her family. Actually, nobody in her family has had ninja training until her. Sakura never met her great-grandmother and her father and grandfather were merchants. Yes, I was able to find that out here. Her father attended the academy but was unable to graduate. Kakashi remarked, Sakura has never mentioned that to me. He was a good man. I never met him myself, but he was well liked by many. He died during the nine-tailed fox's attack. He was helping other civilians get to the shelters when the building he was in collapsed while he was still inside, stated the Hokage. We lost many good people that day. Yes, we did. Did you find anything else? Yes, Shino Haruno gave birth to Sakura's grandfather less than 9 months after she arrived at the village, which means the Hokage remarked, she was already pregnant when she arrived. That's not all. I looked everywhere and couldn't find her birth certificate anywhere, or her death certificate for that matter. I also couldn't find anyone with the name Haruno or anyone that heard of them before Shino Haruno. That leads me to believe that Haruno was a name fabricated to hide her true identity. It's not unheard of for individuals to change their name, especially during a time of war, stated the Hokage. Kakashi responded, and when they do, they usually have something to hide. The Hokage was forced to concur with Kakashi. He thought the girl was concealing something, too, but did confronting her about it suffice? He didn't know. He sincerely hoped that whatever she was concealing wouldn't endanger the village because he knew Naruto loved her. Since he didn't think he would like Naruto's response to that decision, he really didn't want to force him to choose between the village and the girl. I think we have found all we can about Sakura's family. I don't think we have much of a choice anymore. Kakashi questioned, are we going to confront her then? Yes, I believe it's time we got to the bottom of this. Be here at noon tomorrow, and don't be late, Kakashi. I want you here for this. Yes, sir, Kakashi replied. When Sakura woke up the next morning, her mother was knocking at her door. Sakura, wake up honey, there's someone at the door for you. Sakura reluctantly went downstairs and was taken aback to discover an Enbu waiting at her door. Sakura inquired, is there something wrong? He left without waiting for a response, saying, Sakura Haruno, the Hokage requests your presence at his office at noon today. Do not be late. Sakura started thinking about why the Hokage might want to see her. The Hokage wanted her, not her team, according to the Anbu. Sakura was aware that Kakashi was wary of her, but was the Hokage also wary? This was awful. She was very reluctant to share her future knowledge with the Hokage. The old man did very little for Naruto as a young boy, and Sakura never truly forgiven him for it. Despite knowing Naruto's parents, the third allowed him to grow up in loneliness and misery that could wait until later. Anyway, she had to prepare for that meeting right now. She had to be prepared to guide him away from the truth. No matter what he wanted finding out, she knew the future was the last thing she wanted someone like Danzo to discover. It would be detrimental to everyone if someone like him found out. The next day, Sakura made it on time to the Hokage Tower. The Hokage was seated at his desk when she arrived at the office, and Kakashi was leaning against the wall beside him, reading his book. Of course, she knew this was as serious as she believed it to be if Kakashi had arrived early. You summoned me, Lord Hokage, she said respectfully. Yes, Sakura, there's something that your sensei and I wish to speak to you about. And what is that, sir? It's about the jutsu you used during your first C-rank mission. I would like to know where you learned them. I have already explained to Kakashi-sensei that I learned them from a family scroll, she continued. The Hokage said, and you can produce this scroll if asked? With all due respect, Lord Hokage, but Article 12 of the Konoha Charter states that the Hokage has neither the right nor the authority to demand the secrets of any clan jutsu. At that, the Hokage scowled. He knew the girl was right, so he didn't want to bring up the topic. If the clans discovered that he was requesting secret techniques, they would not be pleased. I don't believe the Haruno is considered a ninja clan, Sakura. After all, your family are all merchants, are they not? Replied Kakashi. The charter not only protects established clans but all jutsu developed by an individual person, clan or members of a family. It doesn't specify that the protection is only for an existing clan. Taking up his pipe, the Hokage started to light it. This was not going well. The girl already knew too much about the law and was defensive. He didn't want to be harsh with her, but she wasn't giving him many options. As Hokage, I do have the authority to have anyone interrogated if I feel they are hiding something of vital importance to the village's security. If it comes to it, I will exercise that right, the Hokage replied. I still don't see how my clan jutsus are of vital importance to the village's security. She stated she was trying to buy some time. It was impossible to tell them the truth, but they were on her. Thankfully, Kakashi provided her with the resources to prevent her from visiting the interrogation department. Sakura had no intention of visiting Ibiki and Anko. We know that the Haruno name is a fabricated name, Sakura. We also know that the jutsu you used are from this village, and only few know of their existence. We need to know how you learned them, replied Kakashi. Sakura was unable to inform Kakashi that the jutsu didn't truly originate in this village and that he was only partially correct. Sakura had hoped to keep it a secret for as long as possible, but she knew she would have to give them something even though she already dreaded the outcome. She had no choice but to do it in order to save Naruto and keep her secret about the future intact. You're right about my great-grandmother. Shino Haruno wasn't her real name. The third Hokage inquired. What was her real name? Sakura inhaled deeply. Her real name was Haruna Shirahama. This was going to go badly. The sound of the Hokage's pipe hitting the ground was the only sound to break the ensuing silence. Although Kakashi didn't recognize the name, it was clear from the Hokage's shocked expression that Kakashi made the decision to remain silent and watch the situation unfold. The Hokage stood up suddenly and slammed his hands on his desk, his expression changing from one of stunned disbelief to one of roiling rage. He practically shouted, "That's a lie. Lady Haruna died long ago. I was there. I saw it happen." "I'm afraid you're wrong, sir. She survived the attack and was taken from the village in secret. Her survival was kept from everyone for her safety." Almost as if attempting to persuade himself more than the others, he whispered, "He would have told me. He wouldn't have kept it a secret from Emi-sensei. Knew how I felt about the attack. He would have told me at the end." Kakashi said, "I apologize, but who is Haruna Shirahama exactly?" The Hokage spoke before Sakura could respond. The Shirahama clan was one of the first civilian families to join the Leaf Village once it was formed. Lady Haruna was their only daughter. She was a kind and beautiful woman. She had a sweet and gentle nature, and was loved by many. During the beginning of the First Great War, she trained with the medical corps to help with the many sick and injured that the war produced. It was there that she met my sensei, the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju. My sensei soon fell in love with the wonderful woman and she with him. Kakashi remarked, "I never heard of the second having a lover." "That's because they tried very hard to keep it a secret. Only my team and her family knew about it. They were planning to marry as soon as the war was over." Buddha. "What happened?" Kakashi inquired with sadness in his voice. The third admitted, "I messed up. My sensei had my team discreetly watch over her while we were in the village, just in case something happened. You never knew if a surprise attack would occur. Anbu were needed to guard the village, so we would take turns trailing Lady Haruna in secret so she wouldn't worry herself. It was my turn to watch over her as usual. I followed her from the hospital to her family home. I was to wait there until one of my teammates came to relieve me. I was bored and thought it couldn't hurt if I left for a short while. I was only a block away, getting a snack, when I heard an explosion. I ran towards the sound, and when I got there I was horrified to see the Shirahama house on fire. It was my fault." "That's why you were so upset with Naruto and me leaving during the mission," replied Sakura. "Yes, one moment of weakness, one mistake can cost the innocent their lives." Kakashi asked, "So did you find out what happened?" "Yes, a spy from the Cloud Village was able to somehow find out about my sensei and Lady Haruna while I was away. He delivered a package with several explosive notes in it. There were no survivors. That's why I know you're lying," he said while staring at Sakura. Kakashi, still attempting to grasp the full picture, asked, "Why are you so sure, sir? Did you see her body?" "There were only 3 people that lived in that house, Lady Haruna and her parents, and there were 3 bodies found in the wreckage." "And you can explain how 3 dead people were found while you claim Lady Haruna survived?" Sakura replied to Kakashi. "Yes, I can. You see, the Hokage is mistaken when he thinks that the spy was there to kill my great-grandmother. The spy was a female that was sent to capture her to use as leverage against the second Hokage. The spy never expected that her father would get a lucky shot and stab her with a hidden dagger when she let her guard down. Once she knew she would be either dead or captured, she detonated some explosive tags she had on her. My great-grandmother only survived the blast because of a special ring that had a protection seal on it. She was injured but only with minor cuts and burns. My team and I would have been informed if that were true," the third said. Sakura gave a headshake. The Hokage couldn't risk anyone, especially the Cloud Village, finding out, so he secretly smuggled her out and escorted her to a small village far away from the front lines. That is when Haruna Shirahama became Shino Haruno. The Hokage had hoped that once the war was over, he would be able to bring her back to the village. Unfortunately, he was killed a little more than a month later. He never found out that my great-grandmother was pregnant with his child. The Hokage's old legs were about to give out from under him, and he had to use his desk to steady himself, causing Kakashi's jaw to drop with disbelief. The third asked, "What did you say?" "I said that I'm a direct descendant of the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju." However, the Hokage remarked, "But that's impossible." Sakura reflected, "That's how I felt when I found out." It would have never occurred to Sakura that she was secretly related to one of the original clans of the Leaf Village. She didn't do a blood test to determine the source of her son Minato's ability to use the Senju bloodline wood release until he demonstrated it. When Sakura discovered that she was descended from Senju, she was utterly shocked after learning. Sakura started going through all of her family's old documents, and it was during this process that she discovered her great-grandmother's diary. She described everything that transpired in it, and Sakura was forced to accept that it was true. Not as impossible as you may think, sir. Sakura has an incredibly high water affinity just like the second. She also has earth affinity and can use some of the second's jutsu. If what she said is true, a simple blood test can prove it. In fact, with Sakura's amazing chakra control and having both water and earth affinities, she might even be able to use the wood-release bloodline of the Senju, replied Kakashi. I wouldn't count on that, Kakashi. I was never able to do it before. Then again, with the war going on, I never had the time to actually train for it, said Sakura. The Hokage was unsure of his thoughts. Is this girl actually his sensei's relative? We will run the test to be sure what you say is true, he said. Kakashi, you will take her to the hospital and have my personal physician run the test. I want you to make sure that no one but he knows about the test. Do I make myself clear? Crystal, sir. After turning, the Hokage turned to Sakura. How long have you known? And why did you keep it hidden? The knowledge of a Senju heir would have been most welcomed in the village. Sakura fixed her gaze on the elderly man's eyes. You better than most should know that some secrets have to be kept a secret for the safety of the individual in concerns. Sakura didn't feel like interacting with the elderly man. She didn't want to reveal it, but the idiot had made her do it. All she could do was hope that this wouldn't seriously disrupt her plan. As the Hokage gazed into the ferocious green eyes, a chill went up his spine. Did she mean his secret about the fox, even though he knew she was talking about Naruto? Or might she be aware of his ancestry? No, she couldn't possibly do that, could she? He would need to watch her carefully. While Tsunade was determined to never enter this village, Sakura could have a significant amount of political power. I see. Very well, both of you go and get the tests done. I expect you both back within the hour. Go. After Kakashi touched Sakura's shoulder, the sensei and student departed in a gust of wind. The Hokage missed the small bug that flew out his window because he was too preoccupied with thinking about the enormity of the secret he had just learned. The old Leaf Village war hawk stood in front of his kneeling subordinate deep within an underground hiding place. Are you absolutely sure of this? There can be no mistake? In a tone devoid of emotion, the kneeling man answered, I am Lord Danzo. The girl is being tested as we speak. Is this possible? A Senju descendant in the community? How could this have escaped his notice? In any case, that is no longer significant. He needed to find a method to influence the girl. The girl was far too valuable to lose the Senju bloodline. If there is a chance at all, he would have an easier time controlling the Jinchuriki. If he could control her, he would assume the role of Hokage as he was due. Once he had both under control, after that, he would lead the village to prosperity and eliminate all of the Leaf's adversaries. Sitting at his desk, the third Hokage examined the documents that proved what he regarded as one of his worst life errors. He discovered after reading these papers that his mistake had not been as disastrous as he had initially believed. He couldn't even be upset with his sensei for keeping it a secret because he was so thrilled about this discovery. His current self had been shaped in part by the remorse and rage he felt toward himself for being accountable for Lady Haruna's demise. It was a lifetime of guilt leaving, and Sarutobi could finally move on, and the person who did it was standing in front of him. Sarutobi had to admit that the relief he felt knowing that he was not responsible for the death of his beloved sensei's lover was indescribable. Raising his head from the papers, Sarutobi gazed into Sakura's emerald green eyes and spoke to her in a passionate voice. You have no idea what this means to me, Sakura. For this I will forever be in you debt. It was clear to Sakura that the Hokage meant what he said even though he was interfering with her plans. She was happy to assist him because she understood what it was like to have a guilty conscience. She was now making a valiant effort to avoid the mistakes she had made in the past and the future. You don't need to thank me, Lord Hokage. All I did was told the truth. I had hoped to keep the truth to myself as long as possible. Sakura's steely voice interrupted Sarutobi as he said, but why? Why would you want to keep this a secret? The fact that there is another Senju that can possibly bring the Klana. I am a Haruno. My father and grandfather were Haruno and I have no intention of changing my name, at least not until I'm married. The Hokage countered, but do you know that you carry the Senju blood in you, when the village knows a? She yelled, I know what will happen, at him. I know that people will try to manipulate me for their own selfish gains. Or they will try to suck up to me in hope to gain something from me in the future. Worst of all, they will try to control me any way they can. Well, I will tell you now, I may not be able to stop you from telling the village, but neither you nor the council have the authority to force me to take the Senju name, and with the exception of my ninja duties I will not be told what to do in regards to my personal life. If I have to, I will take a page out of Tsunade's book and leave this village, with or without permission. You would rather become a missing ninja than become the Senju heir? Would you really leave your friends and your mother over this? Asked the Hokage with disbelief. I refuse to be a pawn for political games. I refuse to be controlled simply to satisfy the people who can't get over their anger and grief enough to let a wonderful person become what he was meant to become. At last, Sarutobi understood what she was discussing. It seems that Kakashi was correct to suspect that Sakura and Naruto had a deeper relationship. The girl was aware that many would attempt to influence her if she adopted the Senju name. Many will also attempt to persuade her to carry on the Senju clan's name, particularly the council. Tsunade's advanced age prevented her from becoming pregnant. Sakura is aware that this would put her under a lot of pressure. Sakura is also aware that the council would sanction the Senju clan's heir to be romantically involved with someone like Naruto. Sarutobi cursed the ignorance of the civilians once more. Perhaps the villagers would be more accepting of Naruto if they were aware that 2 out of the 4 Hokage's wives were Jinchuriki. I understand how you feel, Sakura, but this is a critical decision. This is an important opportunity, not only for you but for the good of the village as well. Please think carefully about your decision. I will support you with whatever you decide. Thank you, Lord Hokage. If that is all for now, can I be excused? There is someone I need to talk to before this becomes public knowledge. Very well, Sakura, you're excused. After making a small bow to the Hokage, Sakura went in search of Naruto. The Hokage asked, turning to face the man beside him. What do you think, Kakashi? I think Sakura is right about the council. I don't think they will leave her alone when this gets out. I know we will have to keep a close eye on her, a close eye on both Sakura and Naruto. I will do my best, Lord Hokage. Very well, you may leave, Kakashi. I have to call for a council meeting. Don't forget that the Jonin meeting is tomorrow. If you want to take part in the nomination ceremony, do not be late. Of course not. If I were, my students would kill me, said Kakashi, rubbing the back of his head. An amused Hokage was left behind as he vanished in a whirl of leaves. A man with a cane and many bandages asked, so has it been confirmed? A masked man on his knees replied, yes, Lord Danzo. The girl is definitely the second Hokage's great-granddaughter. Danzo grinned. Really, I must prepare for the council meeting. Sarutobi is certain to call. My lord, the Hokage will not voluntarily grant anyone custody of the girl. I will have the demon and the Senju, regardless, ninjas disappear in action all the time. After all, the man then departed to get ready for the meeting. Naruto was enjoying his day so far, so he got up early and had a light breakfast of shinobi o's. Sakura had made sure that he was only permitted to eat ramen once a day, so he reluctantly agreed that this was healthier for him. Naruto had been reading the books that Sakura had given him, and although most of them were really dull, he had taken a particular interest in the books on sealing, which seemed to call to him. Even though he was still only learning the fundamentals, Naruto believed that this could be a powerful skill in the future. Naruto had a productive training session before heading to Ichiraku's for a much-needed ramen fix, and he was shocked to see Sakura waiting for him outside the ramen stand. Hey Sakura, are you and the elderly man meeting over? Naruto inquired. Yes, I feel compelled to discuss it with you, in private, she said solemnly, and just as Naruto opened his mouth to respond, his stomach rumbled loudly. Sakura grinned and added, after we have lunch. The couple left the stand after a brief and quiet lunch and made their way to Naruto's apartment, which had been a mess until Sakura's not-so-subtle threats turned it into a tidy and clean space. Naruto sat down on the couch and asked nervously, so what do you want to talk about, Sakura? It's about the meeting I had with the Hokage. How about it? Is there a problem? He inquired, worried. Well, Naruto, there is something I must tell you. It has to do with my family and will soon be made public before you hear it from someone else. I wanted you to hear it from me. All right, tell me about it. You seem concerned about it. With an intense expression on his face, he told her, you know that I'm here for you no matter what. Sakura grinned at him and said, well, it turns out that I recently discovered that my family was not always named Haruno. This is one of the reasons she loved him so much, his fierce determination and loyalty to the people he loves. In order to conceal her true name, my great-grandmother changed it. Haruna Shirahama was her real name, not Shina Haruno. She's unknown to me. Did she do something wrong? What is the significance of her name? Confused, he asked. Her family was one of the first civilian families to live in the Leaf Villagia. Whoa, Sakura, that is really awesome. But why did she change her name then? He almost shouted with excitement. My great-grandfather is the man who caused her to change her name and leave the village. He had a lot of enemies and was a strong ninja. She was secretly removed from the village and given a new name in order to protect her following an attack that killed her family. It was intended that she would return after the war was over, but sadly, my great-grandfather was killed shortly after she left. I discovered my great-grandmother's diary and discovered her secret, but no one else knew who he was. I had to inform the Hokage about certain actions. My great-grandfather was who my great-grandmother claimed he was. According to the results of a blood test he recently had given who he was. They will most likely inform the village shortly. Who was he? Naruto inquired. My great-grandfather was Tobarama Senju. Before speaking, Naruto's eyes widened and he paused for a few moments to think. Who was he again? He rubbed the back of his head and asked. Sakura's eye twitched as her perspiration fell. Naruto, did you not pay attention in the academy? Sakura responded angrily, that was the second Hokage's name. Naruto's eyes almost burst out of his head as he finally understood. Wait, you have a Hokage relative? That's incredible. That's really awesome. Sakura, why do you act as though it's a negative thing? Naturally, Naruto would assume that having a Hokage relative could only be advantageous. Naruto, this is going to be really upsetting for me. My name and everything else should be changed. According to the council and the Hokage, people trying to control me or tell me what I should or shouldn't do are not things I want, nor do I want to be treated differently. Furthermore, I particularly don't want anyone to think they can dictate to me who I should date. If she was related to the second Hokage, the villagers and the foolish council wouldn't want her to even be friends with him, much less be his girlfriend, Sakura said, and Naruto understood why she was concerned. Is that why you didn't want to tell anybody about us? Because you were aware that the village would disapprove of us if they learned about your family? What people think of Naruto doesn't matter to me. If you want, we can let everyone know that we're together, but when people learn about us, they will try to destroy us. Being together will be more difficult, but if you want to, we can do it. Unless you want me to, I won't leave you. Good, because I never want you to leave me. Naruto replied with a smirk after noticing the intensity in her emerald green eyes and realizing that she meant every word for the time being. I suppose we should continue to keep our relationship a secret. Sakura grinned and gave him a firm embrace, and the young couple stayed together for the remainder of the day while the Hokage met with the village council. The Hokage waited for everyone to be seated in the council room before saying, "Thank you all for coming in short notice. What is the purpose of this meeting? Sarutobi, is something amiss?" Danzo, who was already aware of the response, asked. "You were called because I have just verified some information that is of great importance to the village," replied the Hokage. "And Lord Hokage, what information is that?" Choza Akamichi, the big-boned leader of the Akamichi clan, asked. "Information that regards one of the Leaf Village's most revered and respected clans." "Oh, is Sasuke Uchiha involved in this?" one of the members of the civilian council interrupted. The Hokage responded, "No, the information I gathered is about the other clan that founded this village. It's about the Senju clan, after several of the ninja clan heads complained about the idiot's inquiry. People were whispering about this, wondering what it was about, and then Utatane Kaharu, one of the Hokage's advisors, said, "What information is this, Sarutobi? Has Tsunade experienced any changes?" "No, Tsunade is not the subject of this. This relates to another." "What else?" As Sarutobi stared at him in exasperation, Danzo mentally grinned and said, "Tsunade is the only Senju left. He wanted Sarutobi to spit it out so he could carry out his plan. Actually, that is no longer the case. I have just verified that one of our ninja is actually a descendant of the second Hokage." Everybody in the room was shocked by this news, but Sarutobi didn't blame either of his former teammates because he couldn't even believe it himself. "What are you saying? How can that be?" Kaharu asked in a tremulous voice, and Danzo remained silent because he already knew. "It appears that Lady Haruna was not killed in the attack as we were led to believe." "But we..." Sarutobi interrupted, saying, "I know you should believe me when I say that I didn't believe what we saw. The blood test, however, demonstrates that the individual is who they claim to be. The tests were conducted by my personal physician. This individual is a direct descendant of Lady Haruna and our sensei." "Forgive me, Lord Hokage, but am I to assume that your team knew of the second having a personal relationship with this person, Lady Haruna?" replied Shibi Aburame. Since Lady Haruna was a civilian and Tobarama sensei had a lot of enemies, he did indeed swear us to secrecy in order to protect her. But the Cloud Village somehow found out about their relationship and attempted to abduct her. Lady Haruna's parents lost their lives as a result of the failed attempt. We thought Lady Haruna had also passed away, but it turns out she lived, and our sensei kept it a secret even from us. It was hoped that Lady Haruna would be returned to this village after the war was over. But a month later, our sensei was killed, and he lost the knowledge of her survival. Lady Haruna was already expecting a child and was aware that she and her son would suffer at the hands of our sensei's enemies. She changed her name and kept her child's father a secret. That child's descendant is currently one of this village's ninjas. When I asked them to demonstrate jutsu that only Tobarama sensei had been able to do, they gave me that information. There was a lot of excitement in the room because the second Hokage was one of the strongest ninja to ever leave the Leaf Village, and the village was thrilled that any ninja could use any of his jutsu. "And who is Sarutobi, this ninja?" What's their name? Danzo inquired. The Hokage replied, her name is Sakura Haruno, she is a genin member of Team 7 under Kakashi Hitaki. Whispers echoed throughout the room as the people inside attempted to recall what they knew about the young girl. I am acquainted with Sakura Haruno. In their younger years, she and my daughter Ino were close friends according to what I recall. She had a mind that was almost genius level. Inochi Yamanaka said as much. According to what my son tells me, the girl also has a nasty temper, much to the amusement of both my daughter and myself. She thoroughly humiliated him during a sparring session. She could definitely be a valuable asset to this village with the correct training, Sume Inuzuka stated. My son saw that match, and he made a similar assessment. According to Shino, she demonstrated remarkable chakra control and was endowed with both medical ninjutsu and genjutsu. Very remarkable for someone of her age, Shibi Aburame remarked. Recently, my daughter Hinata has spent a lot of time with the girl. She complimented the girls and Naruto's skills when I asked her about her most recent mission, Hiyashi Hyuga remarked. Based on Hinata's statement, Sakura Haruno was able to defeat a B-rank level missing ninja on her own. He believed Hinata had finally done something right by making friends with this girl, who might turn out to be a strong and significant ally of the Hyuga clan. Yes, Kakashi is a talented ninja, based on what she has told me. She has demonstrated that she has inherited Tobirama-sensei's extraordinary affinity for water. However, she does not yet have the chakra capacity to fully utilize it as sensei did, though this could change in time. Additionally, Sakura has a secondary affinity for earth, which means that, theoretically at least, she could be able to revive the Senju bloodline. According to Sarutobi, this was well received by the council members, who he was certain were already looking for ways to win the girl's favor. When will she be declared the Senju heir, then? The Hokage could already tell that the civilian who asked the question had a personal agenda. After all, Tsunade is too old to have children, and it's only right that this girl take her rightful place. Sarutobi was aware that things would not go well at this point. Unfortunately, Sakura has declined to accept the Senju name. It didn't take Sarutobi long to hear the yelling. She has no desire to have anything to do with being its heir or anything else to do with the clan. What? Impossible. How is this possible? Among other things, were yelled. Why does she believe she can influence the situation? She should follow instructions because she is a ninja in this village, Danzo remarked. She is perfectly entitled to do as she pleases. I will support her decision whether we like it or not, and this council has no right to force her to do anything, Sarutobi stated. But why? Why would she refuse to accept the name of one of the greatest clans in history, as a member of the populace? The reason for this is that she was brought up by and as a civilian. No ninja clan, much less her own, is respected by her. I propose that she be placed under a clan's guardianship so that she can receive the necessary training to become a ninja clan heir, Danzo said, already formulating his strategy for capturing Sakura. But before anyone could disagree with him, he said, that will never happen. We have neither the authority nor the right to do it. She lives with her mother, and since Sakura is regarded as an adult in the village as a ninja, she is entitled to the deference we must accord her for her choices. But Sarutobi, she is sensei's heir, replied Koharu. We have to make Soraya. The sole thing we need to ensure is that we honor her choice. The Hokage replied, that's what sensei would want us to do. This seemed to resonate with his teammates and the majority of the ninja present, much to Danzo's annoyance. Realizing that he no longer had the backing to carry out his plan, Danzo could only fume in silence for the remainder of the meeting. I think it's best for her safety that her heritage be kept a secret for now. He said we do not want Sakura to become the target of the enemies of the Senju clan. I've also informed Tsunade in the hopes that she will return to the village. As a result of this news, she might be able to persuade Sakura to acknowledge her birthright. We can only wait and hope for the best for the time being. As he watched the council members leave the room, Sarutobi realized that they could not possibly remain silent. It was Naruto all over again, and he knew that before the week was over, the entire village would be aware of Sakura. He had done everything he could for the time being and hoped that Sakura would change her mind, which he didn't like the possibility of happening, but you never know what ever happened. It would have to wait because he needed to prepare for the meeting with the Jonin, and he could already tell that the Chunin exams were going to be more difficult than ever. Unfortunately, Sarutobi was unaware of his own correctness. The news was well received by the village and everyone had hope for the restoration of the Senju clan. Many wealthy civilians and clan heads with sons Sakura's age were already plotting to gain access to the Senju clan through Sakura, proving that Sarutobi was correct in his prediction that the secret of Sakura's heritage would not be kept a secret for long. By the following day, more than half of the village was aware of the secret, and the remaining members would soon learn about it. 3 clan heirs were processing the news in their favorite barbecue restaurant. I still find it hard to believe, Is forehead the Senju clan's heiress? I would have assumed it was a big joke if my dad hadn't insisted it was true, Ino said. That's troublesome, please stop discussing it. What does it matter if she belongs to the Senju clan? When Tsunade passes away, she will be the only person left, Shikamaru remarked. Choji said, Yay Munch, we are all Munch heirs too. Naturally, it's a huge deal. What happens if she does this to attract Sasuke's interest? My chances of getting along with him could be ruined because they are both the last of their clans, Ino shouted. Shikamaru complained, yeah, this is what will ruin your chances. What was that? With a tone that threatened punishment for providing the incorrect response, Ino posed the question. Nothing, Shikamaru said, complaining about obnoxious blondes. Hinata was having a hard time understanding what was going on because she was shocked when her father asked her to meet him in his study after lunch. Usually, he avoided her as much as possible, unless he was telling her how disappointing she was. I apologize, but what did you say, father? A perplexed Hinata inquired. I expressed my pride in you for serving the clan. We may be able to use your friendship with the Senju heiress as a key instrument to gain control over the Hyuga clan. Like everyone else, Hinata was taken aback by Sakura's decision to forego the Senju name, but she played along because she couldn't tell her father about it. Sakura had already told Hinata about her ancestry a few hours after telling Naruto. She bowed and said, Thank you, father. I will try my best to help bring honor to our clan. Yes, make sure you do. You can go now, he said dismissively. Hinata hurried out of the room without needing to be reminded twice. All of the Jonin had assembled at the Hokage Tower to nominate the Chunin exams. Only the Jonin of the rookie genin remained after several Jonin with more seasoned teams, such as Guy, had nominated themselves. What have you decided for this year's genin? The Hokage inquired. I, Kakashi Hitaki, nominate the team of Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Naruto Uzumaki to participate in this year's Chunin exams, was the first response from Kakashi. It had been a while since a rookie team had been nominated, so many Jonin were taken aback before anyone could protest. Azuma followed Kakashi's example. I, Azuma Sarutobi, nominate the team of Shikamaru Nara, Akamichi Choji, and Ino Yamanaka to participate in this year's Chunin exams. I, Kurenai Yui, nominate the team of Shino Aburame, Kiba Inuzuka, and Hinata Hyuga to participate in this year's Chunin exams, Kurenai said, not to be outdone by her male peers. Someone shouted out in protest, and the room was filled with hushed whispers as the Jonin talked about this unprecedented situation. You're not serious. Iruka grabbed everyone's attention by shouting, they have only been out of the academy for a few months. All 9 of these genin were my students in the academy. Lord Hokage. Despite their talent, they must have grown as a result of their sensei's guidance. They won't be prepared for this test in such a short period of time. In my opinion, I must object to their nomination because many more seasoned genin have been injured or killed. From behind him, Guy remarked, even I prevented my team from taking the exam last year. Iruka is right, Kakashi. What you and Iruka fail to see is that there is a huge difference between the soldiers that I teach now and the kids that graduated from his class a few months ago. Kakashi would normally have said something to annoy Guy, but this was more important. In addition, when I took the Chunin exams, I was younger than Naruto. Iruka screamed, Naruto is nothing like you. Kakashi calmly answered, you're right. When I was a genin, I never defeated a B-rank missing ninja by myself. The Hokage interrupted Iruka as she opened her mouth to reply, saying, that's enough. Iruka, Kakashi is correct. Every genin has surpassed our expectations in terms of improvement. I'll respect their choices if their senseis think they're ready now. Kindly inform your teams about the tests and ensure that they complete the appropriate paperwork. We are adjourning this meeting. Kakashi made his signature entrance at Team 7's usual training ground shortly after the meeting. Yo! He was shocked to see that his team had not yelled at him for being late. In fact, they had completely ignored him. Sakura and Naruto were reading ninja scrolls, while Sasuke was busy frowning at the world. I think I'm losing my touch, he thought as he sweated and cleared his throat loudly to get their attention. Oh, we didn't see you there, Kakashi-sensei, Sakura remarked. We anticipated you being at least an additional hour late. He rubbed the back of his head and remarked, well, the meeting I was in took less time than I thought, and the Hokage forbade me from being late too, he thought. With excitement, Naruto asked, so are we going to do some training then? Actually no, we are not. Naruto, the meeting I just came from was for the nominations to this year's Chunin selection exams, and I have nominated our team to participate. Sakura grinned, Sasuke grinned, and Naruto leapt with delight at this. Naruto exclaimed, hell yeah, we're going to kick some major ass. Kakashi handed them each some forms and said, Easy there, Naruto first, you have to fill out these forms. Remember to bring these to room 301 at 10 AM in 2 days' time. You have the rest of the time from now till then to do as you please. Sakura and Naruto decided to have lunch at Ichiraku Ramen, while Sasuke went off to train alone. Sakura and Naruto both realized they were being followed as they headed toward Ichiraku's. It wasn't that difficult, as a perfectly squared rock was pursuing them. Naruto thought, fake rocks. What's up with that? That's the worst disguise of all time. There's no such thing as squared rocks. It's completely obvious. A voice from inside the rock said, so you saw through my camouflage again. You're slick, boss. Just what I'd expect from my greatest rival. The rock exploded inside, filling the alley with smoke before Naruto could say another word. As the smoke cleared and 3 coughing children she knew well emerged, Sakura couldn't help but smile. I believe we used a bit too much gunpowder, you guys, Konohamaru, the middle boy, said, but the moment the group realized Naruto was looking at them, they took action. I'm Moegi, the sassiest kunoichi in preschool, exclaimed a young girl with 2 sizable ponytails of orange hair. She was dressed in a pink short-sleeve shirt, tan pants, and blue ninja sandals. In addition, she had a pair of goggles on her forehead that resembled a headband and a red cape-like accessory. Call me Udon, I love algebra, a boy with short brown hair declared. He was dressed in a long-sleeved blue shirt, tan shorts, and blue ninja sandals. He, too, had a pair of goggles on his forehead and round glasses. Konohamaru was dressed in a yellow short-sleeve shirt, light blue shorts, and blue ninja sandals, and I'm the #1 ninja in the village. Konohamaru, he exclaimed. In addition to wearing a pair of goggles on his head, he was defiantly dressed in a blue cape. They all 3 shouted, and when we are together we are called the Konohamaru Ninja Squad. Simultaneously, Naruto asked boredly, so did you want something, Konohamaru? Konohamaru screamed, you know what we want. You said you would play ninja with us. Naruto pointed to Sakura, who grinned at the children, and said, I can't right now, I'm going to have lunch with Sakura. Konohamaru was furious and yelled, what? But you promised. His face was frowning as he turned to face Sakura. Why would you want to hang out with her instead of us? I mean, look at her forehead, it's huge. Sakura never stopped smiling, but she was instantly surrounded by a threatening aura when Naruto saw this. He worried about the life of his young friend in an attempt to protect the kids from Sakura's fury. Naruto leapt in front of her, his arms spread wide. Go, run for it while you caw. Sakura's fist struck Naruto's face, causing him to crash through a wooden fence, interrupting his warning. The enraged pink-haired ninja chased after the children as they fled in an attempt to capture the stars before Sakura turned Konohamaru into paste. Naruto shook away the stars he was seeing from Sakura's blow and flew after them. Hey, let me go, you creep. That was the voice of Konohamaru, and Naruto recognized it. He heard another voice just as he turned the corner. I think I'll teach you some respect for your superiors because I detest punks like you, shrimp. Naruto heard Sakura say, I suggest you don't do anything stupid, sand ninja. We may be allies, but it wouldn't be a good idea to attack the Hokage's grandson. Sakura said you would be prohibited from taking the Chunin exams, which is probably why you are in the village, at the very least. Another voice could be heard as Naruto slipped behind the sand ninja. Kankuro, you had better put the child down and let's go so we don't get into any trouble. The voice came from a pretty blonde girl with a battle fan on her back, her hair in 4 ponytails, and a gray battle kimono with a red sash around her waist. Naruto peered through a hole in the fence and saw that the other sand ninja was a transvestite wearing black kitty pajamas, with makeup on his face, a big object wrapped in bandages on his back, and Konohamaru hanging by the front of his shirt. I'm just going to have a little fun with these punks, so don't worry, Tamari the transvestite said, it won't take long. The blonde crossed her arms and said, okay, but I'm not involved in this. Sakura was about to strike when Kankuro smirked and lifted his fist to punch Konohamaru. When Kankuro felt the tip of a kunai press against the side of his neck, he said, I wouldn't move if I were you. Tamari attempted to grab her fan, but she too felt the kunai press against her neck. Sakura noticed that both Sasuke and Gaara were examining Naruto closely, and she smiled as she watched him and his clone stop the Sand siblings. Kankuro was forced to comply with Naruto's threat to put Konohamaru down or I'll end you. As soon as he was put down, Konohamaru ran behind Sakura, and both Narutos vanished in smoke puffs as the real Naruto emerged from behind the fence and stood beside Sakura. Tamari swiftly grabbed her fan and braced herself for battle, while Kankuro snarled, stupid brat, you'll pay for that, as he removed the big bundle he was carrying on his back. Enough of that. When Tamari and Kankuro realized it was Gaara who had spoken, They both turned to face him, and he appeared agitated. "You're a disgrace to our village, Kankuro." "Gaara, it wasn't Maya." In a deadly calm voice, Gaara glared at him and said, "Shut up or I'll kill you." Kankuro, of course, immediately stopped talking, and Gaara vanished in a whirlpool of sand before reappearing beside his siblings. Gaara turned to Naruto and said, "I apologize for my teammates' actions." He then turned to his siblings and said, "Let's go, we didn't come here to play games." A frightened Kankuro said, "Okay, sure Gaara." Sasuke leapt from the tree he was perched on as the sand ninja began to depart. "The kid with the gourd on his back is here. What's your name?" With an angry tone, he asked. After a moment of staring at the boy with the raven hair, Gaara turned to face the boy who had been on the opposite side of the tree he had just been on and said, "My name is Gaara of the desert." "A hottie. I'm Sasuke Uchiha," he said after saying, "I couldn't care less who you are," which greatly infuriated Sasuke. Gaara turned to face Naruto and said, "But you, I sense something strong with you. What's your name?" "Naruto Uzumaki." The sand ninja turned around and walked away without saying anything more. "I hope we face each other in the exams. Naruto Uzumaki, I will enjoy killing you very much." "What on earth was wrong with that individual?" Naruto inquired. "Naruto, don't worry about it, it simply indicates that the Chunin examinations will be highly engaging," Sakura remarked. Sakura shook her head at his antics and followed a beaming Naruto as he led them to Ichiraku's, but none of them noticed the glare that young Uchiha was giving them. "I guess oh well, let's get some ramen, I'm hungry," said a smiling Naruto. "Dosu, what are your thoughts?" A black-haired sound ninja dressed in camouflage asked. "There is some talent in the blonde brat, a mummy-like sound ninja with only one eye visible, camouflage clothes, and a big metal object on his right arm replied. "The desert rat and the Uchiha we have to keep a close eye on." "Whatever you say, Dosu, I can't wait to destroy the lot of them," replied Zaku. Dosu led his team out, saying, "Let's go, we have to prepare for the exam." It was going to be a lot of work, but Sakura wasn't about to give up. She was going to do whatever it took to change the future, no matter the cost at the ramen stand. She was reviewing her plans for the Chunin exams. There were a lot of things that were threatening to happen in the coming days, including making sure that Orochimaru wouldn't put the curse seal on Sasuke, making sure that none of her friends were harmed, and most importantly, not drawing more attention to herself. As Team 7 moved through the academy building, Sakura grinned as before. They reached the second floor and immediately saw the weak genjutsu that had been positioned there. Izumo and Katetsu used a transformation jutsu to make each other appear younger, just like they did the last time. Similar to the last time, Lee and Tenten pretended to be weak in order to avoid being noticed. "You weaklings are taking the Chunin exams? When you can't even get past us?" Izumo responded. "Please let us through, we are supposed to go in there," Tenten said. "We're doing you a favor, people die in these exams. If you can't handle us, then there is no way you're ready to participate," stated Katetsu. "Real nice speech, loser, and now step aside and let me through. I don't have time to waste with trash." Sakura was startled out of her reverie by Sasuke's haughty tone. It was too late when she turned to face him and stopped him from opening his mouth. "And drop your pathetic genjutsu, nobody is falling for it." Sasuke's stupidity made Sakura want to palm her face, but she restrained herself. It was clear from the numerous perplexed expressions that some of the less skilled rivals had indeed fallen for the genjutsu. Izumo then charged at Sasuke, saying, "So, you noticed our illusion, did you? Well, let's see you deal with this." Sasuke saw this and followed suit, aiming strong kicks at Izumo. Neither of them saw the green blur that appeared between them just before their blows connected, and they were both shocked to see how easily their attacks were stopped as Lee let go. Sakura heard a familiar voice. "Lee, what became of the plan?" With a disapproving expression on their faces, Sakura watched Neji and Tenten approach Lee. "I thought it was your idea to keep a low profile and not show our real skill level," Neji added. "I know, Buddha." Sakura realized at that moment that Lee was blushing as he looked at her. Sakura thought in horror, "Oh hell, I forgot about this," but before she could act, Lee was standing in front of her, holding one of her hands while making the same statement he had made in the previous timeline. "Your name is Sakura, correct?" "My name is Rock Lee," he said. "Please be my girlfriend, I vow to protect you with my life," and as he finished, a familiar sparkle came from his smile. Sakura could only nod as she glanced at Naruto out of the corner of her eye. Naruto looked angry. Sakura responded before a fight started, observing that Naruto was about to blow up. "I'm sorry, but I can't accept being your girlfriend, Lee. Besides, who knows, maybe the person you're meant to be with is closer to you than you think," Sakura said, unable to control herself when she saw Lee's shoulders slump in agony. "I already have someone that will protect me with his life." While her words seemed to perk Lee up, Sakura glanced at the bun-haired girl that would become Lee's wife. It had not been easy for Lee and Tenten. She had been in love with Neji for years, and when they got together shortly before the war began, everyone thought they would eventually marry. Unfortunately, 2 years after they got together, just as Neji was planning to propose to Tenten, his clan got in the way. Neji was considered one of the most powerful Hyuga members. The Hyuga Council didn't want his powerful blood to be weakened by an outsider. So the Hyuga elders made Neji a deal. If Neji agreed to marry a main branch Hyuga member, they would remove the cage bird seal and accept him into the main branch. Originally Neji refused, until the elders said they would allow Neji to take Tenten as a concubine. So long as he produced a true Hyuga heir first, they didn't care if Neji and Tenten were together. Neji, seeing a chance to have his freedom and be with the woman he loved, immediately agreed, only to then find out that Tenten refused to accept the deal. Tenten was always a very proud woman. She said that she could never agree to being someone's second. Neji begged Tenten to reconsider because he had already agreed to marry a Hyuga, but Tenten stood firm in her beliefs. Even though it pained her to lose the man she loved, she would not lose her dignity as a woman. Lee was the one that helped Tenten throughout everything, and a few years later they were happily married. Hinata said Neji was happy for them, even though his own marriage was a cold, loveless burden which he despised. Naruto snarled, "You heard Sakura, back off." Bushy brows. "And who are you?" As he and Naruto exchanged scowls, Lee asked Sakura cut Naruto off before he could begin. After that, Sakura was able to lead Sasuke and Naruto to the 3rd floor. She noticed that Lee didn't follow them to challenge Sasuke this time, possibly because she hadn't been such a bitch this time. "He is my teammate, Naruto. And we really have to get going or else we're going to be late," she said, giving Naruto a look that indicated she wasn't taking no for an answer. "See you at the exams, Lee." As he put his book away, he said, "I'm glad to see you all made it. I couldn't have asked for a better team. I'm proud of you all." As he moved aside to let them in the door, he said, "Now go, and good luck." Sakura remarked, "Thanks sensei, we promise to do our best." "Trust it." As they entered the room, Naruto and Sasuke simply nodded in agreement. Unlike the last time, Sakura was unfazed by the numerous teams staring at them. When Team 7 entered soon after, a familiar sound could be heard. "Where have you been, Sasuke?" When Sakura heard Ino Yamanaka's excited voice behind them, she shook her head at her friend's antics and turned to see Ino dangling off Sasuke's back. Sasuke growled, "Get off, Ino," but he was obviously disregarded. Shikamaru's familiar bored tone rang out, "Stop being troublesome, Ino. So you guys are here too, huh? I was aware that this would be tedious, but I had no idea it would be this dull." As Shikamaru and Choji joined them, Naruto grinned and said, "So the rest of the 3 stooges are here too?" Shikamaru said, "Hey, you know what, pipsqueak, forget it, you're not worth it." Sakura recalled that they didn't have to wait long for everyone to hear a familiar voice again. Everyone turned to see Kiba, and the other members of Team 8 joined them, saying, well, what do you know, looks like the whole gang is together again." "Hey there," Hinata said, beaming broadly as he greeted Naruto. He was met with the blushing, "Hello," and Naruto, from Hinata. Shikamaru moaned, "You guys too, man, everyone is here for this stupid thing." "Hey Kiba, did you recently get a haircut?" Choji inquired. Sakura merely smiled at Kiba when he glared at him, but before he could respond, a voice raised Sakura's blood pressure. "Hey, you guys may want to keep it down a little." Kabuto. Sakura believed that Kabuto was one of her primary targets because he was in charge of assembling a dead ninja army that claimed many lives during the first significant conflict between Madara's army and the Ninja Alliance. Kabuto, Orochimaru, and the other members of Akatsuki needed to be eliminated as quickly as possible. "Just chill out. I know you're all beginners and everything, but I wouldn't go around making a big deal out of you, you know, this isn't a school excursion." "So, who made the inquiry? In any case, who are you?" an irritated Ino asked. "My name is Kabuto Yakushi, but come on, take a look around you. This exam makes everyone touchy, and you don't want to rub them the wrong way right now," he said, cocking his head to look at the rest of the room, which was indeed filled with fierce glares directed at the rookies in an attempt to intimidate them. "Well, why don't you educate us, Kabuto, if you're such an expert?" Sakura inquired. "I suppose I can assist you rookies a little," Kabuto replied. Similar to the previous time, Kabuto continued by informing them about the various villages taking part in the examinations. Sasuke inquired about specific members, including Lee and Gaara, but this time he wasn't the only one. To everyone's surprise, Kiba was the one who asked the final question. "I want to know everything you have on Team 7 of the village hidden in the leaves." Kabuto grinned and said, "Sure thing, let's see." While selecting another card, Jonin is Kakashi Hitaki. Team 7 consists of Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha, the final member of the Uchiha clan. Sasuke Uchiha, won Rookie of the Year this year. Sasuke is a master of fire ninjutsu and possesses impressive taijutsu. Additionally, it states that he recently activated the renowned Sharingan, his clan's dujutsu. Sakura couldn't help but notice that Sasuke was wearing a smug expression rather than being upset that his skills were being made public. Next up is the orphan Naruto Uzumaki. He was the dead last this year. His taijutsu is appalling, and his genjutsu skills are non-existent nonetheless. He possesses enormous chakra reserves and a talent for wind ninjutsu. It also claims that on his most recent mission, he managed to defeat a B-rank missing ninja that is quite impressive, I must say. Naruto did appear angry and concerned about the remarks made about him, in contrast to Sasuke. Sakura Haruno is the last one. She has demonstrated remarkable genjutsu skills and was named Kunoichi of the Year. She has demonstrated some proficiency in medical ninjutsu and possesses flawless chakra control. She is a descendant of the second Hokage and, as such, a member of the Senju clan. As was recently discovered and confirmed in her most recent mission, she also defeated a B-rank missing ninja. It seems that she has a secondary affinity for earth ninjutsu and a very high affinity for water ninjutsu. Wow, this team has a lot of potential, Kabuto remarked. Aside from the shocked expressions on the rookies' faces, Sakura wanted to tear the traitor's head off. She knew that this would be a bad situation later on, and she and Naruto were spared the need to speak when the sound team attacked for Kabuto's previous insults to their village. The scene unfolded exactly as it had the last time, and Ibiki's entrance into the room interrupted them. "Alright, listen up and stop talking, you maggots," Ibiki shouted. Ibiki introduced himself and then went on to explain the test in the same way he had done the last time. After the participants were seated, the exam began, and Sakura completed it without any problems. She then waited to carry out her plan, discreetly observing how the other rookies were obtaining the test answers. As she did this, she felt a foreign presence enter her mind and smiled, realizing that her waiting was over. "What on earth am I doing?" Ino, who had used mind transfer jutsu on forehead to use Sakura's enormous brain for her own benefit, was very perplexed to discover that she was in a dark, empty room rather than in possession of Sakura's body. Well, look what the pig dragged in. It was supposed to be impossible for the person to know when a member of her clan entered a person's mind with this jutsu, so Ino turned to see who had just spoken. "Who's there?" A little frightened, Ino asked. "Piggy, who do you think?" Before Ino could respond, she was squeezed by what appeared to be a giant Sakura. This Sakura was unique, though. She had a psychotic expression in her eyes and resembled a cartoon character. "This isn't feasible, Sakura, let me go," Ino shouted. "Now, Piggy, why would I do that? Why don't we find out what would happen to the real you if I began ripping off your little piggy limbs?" With an insane tone of voice, the inner Sakura inquired. "Would you dare to do that, would you?" Now frightened, Ino stammered. "No, she wouldn't." Looking down, Ino was utterly stunned to see another Sakura emerge from the shadows. This Sakura was also very different from what Ino had anticipated. The second Sakura, who appeared to be in her late 30s and was dressed in a different version of Sakura's red battle dress, looked more like Sakura's mother. Check out my avatar to see what I mean. Sakura? Is that you? What on earth is happening?" a distressed Ino inquired. Sakura said, "Calm down, pig," and with a snap of her fingers, the inner Sakura vanished in a cloud of smoke, leaving the older Sakura and Ino stunned and perplexed. "Now, how about we get started? What are you discussing? And why do you appear to be a more attractive version of your mother?" Ino inquired. "We're in my head, pig. I can make myself appear any way I want, but that isn't crucial at the moment. The test you're about to fail, that is, if you don't accept the offer I'm going to make you, is what matters." "What's the deal with that?" Still suspicious of Sakura, Ino asked. "It's really that easy. You can copy my responses and distribute them to your group. I only ask that you assist Naruto in finding the answers by using your jutsu. Don't you think it's a win-win situation when your team and mine pass?" "I suppose that works all right. I'll give Naruto the answers before my teammates." After saying, "That works for me, now hurry if you're going to have enough time," Ino lost sight of the room and discovered that she was in possession of Sakura's body. In another section of the exam room, Hinata watched as Naruto seemed to be having a nervous breakdown. She was thrilled to be seated next to him because she knew that these tests were difficult for him and wanted to assist him. She whispered to him, Naruto, why, you can copy of my paper if you want to." Hinata's face heated up as Naruto turned to face her. "What did you, Hinata was about to ask him if something was wrong when he sat up straight and shook his head. Whispering to himself, "This is so not cool," Naruto said. "Well, Naruto, are you okay?" A Hinata in a corner asked. "Why yes, I am Hinata, thank you for asking," said Naruto, with a startling smile on his face as he turned to face her. What makes your voice unique?" she inquired. "Perhaps I'm getting anxious sitting next to a girl as gorgeous as you." His voice was flirtatious as he spoke. "What?" was all Hinata could manage before her face began to steam redly, and she immediately passed out. "Too easy," said Naruto. "Now, to write down the test answers," he said. A few minutes later, Naruto awoke, completely bewildered. His test was finished, and strangely, Hinata was unconscious beside him. The rest of the test proceeded as before, with the exception that Naruto didn't speak up because his test was full, which led to a number of additional teams leaving before Ibiki announced that they had passed the first exam. Ibiki explained the purpose of the test and the reasons it had been administered in this manner, and he was about to start telling everyone about the next test when a big object crashed through the window. The room was filled with smoke from an explosion, and when the smoke cleared, a familiar face appeared in front of the participants. She was a woman in her mid-20s, with purple hair tied in a somewhat spiky ponytail, brown eyes without pupils, and a tan overcoat. She was wearing a mesh bodysuit that extended from her neck to her thighs, a small dark orange miniskirt, and tan shin guards. Although she was not wearing a bra, the mesh shirt covered her chest sufficiently to prevent the male participants from seeing her attire. Behind the woman was a large sign that read, "The Sexy and Single, Anko Midarashi, Proctor of the Second Exam." "I'm Anko Midarashi, the proctor for the second exam, and this isn't the time to celebrate maggots. Let go. I hope you're ready," Anko shouted. "Quietness. Once more, you're early," Ibiki said, and Anko blushed in shame before glancing around the room to see how few teams remained. "Not bad, Ibiki, only 24 teams remain." With a smirk that made many in the room shudder, she said, "But by the time I'm done with them, there will be less than half of them left. This is going to be fun." With a grin that never left her face, Anko said. The genin taking part in this year's Chunin exams were standing in front of a heavily forested, gated area that cried out, "Danger!" "What is this location?" In a whisper, Naruto questioned Sakura. "I'm sure they'll let us know, Naruto. This is the location for the second phase of the Chunin exams. It's the 44th battle training ground, but we call it the Forest of Death," Anko said, seemingly responding to Naruto's query. As he stood before the assembled genin, "You'll all discover why in due time." Naruto appeared unconvinced. "Do your worst, lady. I can handle anything. You won't scare me away," he confidently boasted. Anko grinned. A kunai swooped past Naruto's face and grazed his cheek before he could blink. Naruto attempted to react, but Anko materialized behind him before he could do anything. Anko then licked the blood from Naruto's wound, making him shiver, saying, "You know, it's guys like you that are always the first to die. Always leaving their blood all over this forest." Before Anko realized, Sakura was behind her, pressing a kunai against her back, and she was not having any of it. "I advise you to fire my teammate right away," she made a threat. "You know, you shouldn't get so close to me unless you want your life to end prematurely, Pinky," Anko said with a sadistic smirk, mildly surprised that a genin had gotten so close to her without her noticing, but more amused that Pinky was actually threatening her. "You can try anyhow, but you'll be in for a big surprise," Sakura grinned back. "Let him go now." "I like you, Pinky," Anko said with a laugh. "I won't take your boyfriend away, so don't worry." Anko grinned as she released Naruto, saying, "Young, blonde, and stupid are not really my type, plus he's short too." "Hey, I'm not stupid," Naruto screamed in anger. Anko then returned to the front of the forest's gates and spoke to the genin, saying, "Now before we begin this test, I have something to hand out to all of you," as she took some papers out of her coat. "It's just a standard consent form that states that I'm not responsible for your death or anything else that might happen to you in the forest." Anko continued to explain the exam, explaining the Forest of Death and the requirements to pass it, as well as the Earth and Heaven scrolls and how to obtain them. "Now, do you have any questions? And before you ask, if you don't sign this, then you won't be able to continue to participate in the exam," Anko inquired. "How much time do we have to complete the assignment?" a genin from the Hidden Rain village inquired. "You have 5 days to get to the tower with both scrolls," replied Anko. 5 days? How are we going to provide food?" Shoji asked in horror. Shoji was disappointed when Anko told him, "Don't worry, there are plenty of plants and animals you can eat." The test began when the gates opened, with the remaining participants lined up at separate gates after all questions had been answered and all forms completed. The teams rushed into the forest as soon as the gates opened, and Sakura knew that now was the time to try to make things different. She knew that Orochimaru would soon mark Sasuke, and she knew that she wanted to be strong enough to defeat him in a fight, but she also needed to figure out a way to prevent him from marking Sasuke with the curse mark. Her plan was to find the scroll they needed as soon as possible and get to the tower as quickly as she could. Not a very good plan, she acknowledged, but better than trying to repel a Sannin. As her group moved through the forest, Sakura muttered, "We're being followed." "Are you certain?" Sasuke inquired. "Yes, but it's just one person. There are no other chakra signatures that I can detect." According to Sasuke, "I didn't know you were a censor," in an accusing manner. Sasuke was more upset that he couldn't sense anyone at Sakura, but before he could argue further, Naruto interrupted. "I'm not, but you don't have to be a censor type to know you're being followed by someone that can't hide their chakra well," she replied. "What will we do about it, then?" he inquired. "I have a plan," Sakura said with a smile. "Pay attention to this." After Team 7 halted in a small clearing a few minutes later, Naruto rather loudly announced to his teammates that he needed to go urinate. After receiving disapproving glances from his teammates, Naruto fled into the forest for some privacy, and a few minutes later, he smiled as he left. When Naruto said, "Man, that was a lot, I wrote my whole name," Sakura and Sasuke gave him a menacing smile. "What are you guys smiling about?" he said. The sensation of a kunai against his throat was his response. Naruto cocked his head to see another Sasuke clutching the kunai, then glanced back at the first Sasuke to watch him change into a second Naruto. "Did you honestly think we were unaware that you were pursuing us?" Sasuke said in a haughty manner. After that, Naruto changed into a rain ninja. "How did you switch?" the foreign ninja said. "I was watching you the whole time. While we were making the switch, Sakura managed to subdue you with a genjutsu. Where is your scroll now?" Sasuke pressed the kunai hard enough to extract blood in order to ask. The rain ninja said, "I don't have it," and Sasuke struck him in the back of the head, knocking him unconscious before he could see more. After searching him, Sasuke was able to confirm that he was not carrying a scroll. "Well, that didn't work out. How do we handle him?" Naruto pointed to the unconscious ninja and asked. As though it were common sense, Sasuke said, "We kill him and go." "What? That is not possible," Naruto screamed. "Why not?" Sasuke shot back. "He would do the same to us." "Buddha." Naruto turned to Sakura in disbelief, saying, "Sasuke is right, Naruto." Sakura didn't want to deal with any more issues than she already had to, and he didn't know that this man and his teammates would cause them trouble on multiple occasions. "If you let him go now, he will be able to rejoin his team and they can attack us later in the exam. I understand that you dislike it, but at this moment, it is necessary for our mission. It's our responsibility to reach the tower while preventing as many other teams from doing so. Besides, Rain Village is a known foe of the Leaf, so it's not like he's a Leaf ninja." Naruto didn't like it. He felt that what Sakura was saying was incorrect even though he knew it was true. "Okay," he said, and turned to leave. "You're capable of handling it, right?" Sakura questioned Sasuke. The Uchiha said, "Yes, go and babysit the loser in case he starts crying." Sakura gave him a stern look before leaving to follow Naruto, and a few minutes later, Sasuke returned, saying, "It's done, let's go." After traveling for a few minutes, Team 7 sensed 3 chakra signatures trailing behind them. One of these was unmistakably Orochimaru. She realized her plan was ruined and could only hope that her backup plan would now succeed. 1 hour prior to the second exam commencing, a female ninja wearing an Enbu-style outfit and mask was walking down an alley as Konohamaru and his friends were heading to the second exam site to interview some of the participants for the academy newspaper. However, there was something about this ninja that made them all uneasy. Konohamaru moved ahead of his companions and said, "Who are you? And what are you looking for?" The children tensed as the Enbu reached for her weapons pouch, but they relaxed when the ninja produced a scroll. "Give this to your grandfather," the ninja said. She then threw the scroll to Konohamaru, who caught it, and told him that the village was in danger and that the snake had returned to hunt for the Uchiha. "Well, what are you discussing?" Konohamaru inquired, but the Enbu vanished in a whirl of foliage. "Konohamaru, what are we going to do?" Moegi inquired. After giving it some thought, Konohamaru said, "I believe we ought to bring this up with my grandfather. One of the signatures indicates that the Enbu was a shadow clone. There was something wrong with that Enbu," the 3 children said without hesitation, changing course and making their way to the Hokage Tower without realizing that the Enbu was watching them from a roof. When the 3rd Hokage's secretary entered his office, he was working on some paperwork. "Your grandson is visiting you with his friends, Lord Hokage." According to Konohamaru, it was crucial. I see I could use a break from my work, sighed Sarutobi. Permit them to enter. Yes, sir. Shortly after, Konohamaru and his companions entered, and Konohamaru approached his grandfather's desk and set down the scroll that the strange female Anbu had given him. Hey, Grandpa, I've never seen this. Anbu before gave me this and told me I had to give it to you, Konohamaru said. Konohamaru remarked, she said it was very important. I see, well let me read it then, Sarutobi said, starting to read the scroll, but he was instantly alarmed and had tight orders for Konohamaru's Anbu detail to stay out of sight unless it was life or death. Sarutobi Hiruzen Lord Hokage, I am an individual interested in maintaining the safety of the Leaf Village, and I have learned that Orochimaru is the founder and leader of the recently formed Sound Village. As unsettling as these news are, I fear that they get much worse. I have learned, at great personal risk, that Orochimaru has formed an alliance with the Kazekage and intends to attack the Leaf Village during the Chunin exam finals, and that he is currently disguised and intends to target Sasuke Uchiha for an undisclosed reason. I hope that you will use this information not only to protect Sasuke Uchiha and the Leaf Village, but also possibly to try to salvage the alliance between the Sand and Leaf. Please heed this warning. It might be the only one you receive. I know this information sounds unbelievable, but the second exam will soon show that it is true. For the Uchiha's own safety, at the very least, send an Anbu squad to observe his team. Looking at his grandson, Sarutobi scowled and said, thank you for bringing this to me. You did a good job. All of you. If this was a joke, someone was going to get a very harsh punishment. Why don't the three of you go have some fun? I still have a lot of work to do. As he and his friends left the office, Konohamaru said, okay, Grandpa, I'll see you later. When the door was shut, the words, boar, tiger. He uttered the words, explain, as two Anbu appeared kneeling before the Hokage, seemingly out of thin air. Boar started talking while continuing to look down. About 40 minutes ago, while the honorable grandson and his friends were traveling to the Forest of Death, they were attacked by an unidentified female ninja dressed in Anbu-style armor. Tiger and I were ready to step in if she turned out to be antagonistic, but the unidentified ninja left them using the body flicker technique after giving them what appeared to be a scroll. Tiger was still with the kids, so I was ready to go after him, but I couldn't because the ninja was a shadow clone. This is concerning. The village is in serious danger if this scroll is accurate. It would be foolish to simply ignore this warning, Sarutobi said, considering the potential benefits for the person who gave him this scroll if it turned out to be a trap. For the time being, put together two Anbu squads and place them close to the Forest of Death. Ask them to locate Kakashi's team in the forest. Once the second exam begins, ask them to watch them closely, but refrain from getting involved unless the information is accurate and Orochimaru truly participates in the test. Both Anbu said, yes, Lord Hokage, and then vanished in a whirl of leaves. Looking at the scroll once more, the third Hokage hoped it was not true, but his instinct told him it was, and he needed to find out who had given it to him and how much they knew about Orochimaru's plans. In the Forest of Death, Sakura had been biding her time. Like the first time, Naruto had been separated from herself and Sasuke. Also like the first time, Orochimaru had transformed into Naruto to try and get close to Tama and had paid for it via a kunai to his right shoulder from Sakura. An enraged Orochimaru had quickly retaliated with a vicious kick to Sakura's sternum that sent her crashing in a tree and almost knocked her unconscious. There is where she waited for an opening while Orochimaru toyed with Sasuke. It had been difficult for her to remain there, pretending to be unconscious when she heard Naruto arrive. Sakura felt as a furious Naruto unleash the fox's chakra. She used this distraction to switch herself with a shadow clone. Naruto luckily managed to stay in control and didn't use enough chakra to manifest any foxtails. Orochimaru knew that Naruto would be trouble and wasted no time in taking him out by placing the five-pronged seal on him. Sakura had to use the shadow clone that she was using as a decoy to save Naruto from falling to his death. Sasuke, I'm really disappointed in you. What a pity, Orochimaru remarked mockingly. I had so much higher expectations for Itachi's brother. Maybe I should be more interested in your pink-haired teammate. At least she was able to hurt me. That is difficult to accomplish, and it is definitely more than you have been able to do. I'll demonstrate my strength to you, Sasuke roared as he lunged toward Orochimaru. Since she had to block Sasuke's path in order to expose her true self, Sakura cursed his foolishness. Sakura interrupted, don't be stupid Sasuke, that's what Heya, as Sasuke gave her the backhand. Get out of my way. Being Uchiha, I don't need instructions from others. Arg. Orochimaru's snake-like neck retreated back to his body, and Sasuke himself was interrupted when he felt something bite him on the shoulder, followed by a sharp pain that sent him to his knees. I apologize for interrupting our brief game, But I sense a number of Anbu moving in this direction, Sasuke. Think of that as a gift if you want to have actual power. Come find me if you make it out alive. Playing all of you was enjoyable up until that point as his body sank into the ground. Orochimaru remarked, perhaps if your teammate proves herself, I will consider giving her my power too. Gosh. You foolish, conceited idiot, raged Sakura as she saw the curse mark appear in Sasuke's skin. While he continued to scream, Sakura also noticed the presence of several Anbu that had just arrived. She was mad that she couldn't hold Orochimaru off until they arrived but had no choice but to go with another plan now. I know someone's there, she said as she pulled out a kunai. Come out and show yourself. A few seconds later, Sakura was confronted by a lone Anbu. The Anbu said, Genin Sakura Haruno, tell them what happened here. Sakura played the part of a surprised Genin so well that they were unable to disagree with her. Very well, we have a second squad searching for Orochimaru as we speak, the Anbu said, as Sakura gave them an edited version of what happened while keeping some details to herself to allow you to relax. We will accompany you to the tower. Sakura replied, no, that won't be necessary. Why wouldn't you want to be escorted to the tower so your teammates can receive medical attention? The Anbu asked after pausing. Sakura replied, because we would be disqualified. Under the circumstances, the Hokage will let your team get a pass to the next round. And we'll appear weak as a result. No, I won't allow anyone to argue that we didn't deserve to be on this test. Sasuke and Naruto are both only slightly hurt and will be conscious in a few hours. I can manage any situation that arises until they arrive. All right, then we're going to depart and inform the Hokage of your decision. After several hours, Sakura finally felt the last of the Anbu leave. She and a shadow clone had brought Naruto and Sasuke to the same tree hollow where she had used it the first time, and she was able to remove the seal that Orochimaru had placed on Naruto with ease. The problem was the damned curse seal, which meant that Sakura had to do something that she had hoped to avoid. She didn't like it, but she had to do what she had to protect the future with a heavy heart. Sakura opened a storage scroll and unsealed a small ink jar and brush. All she could do was hope that Naruto wouldn't find out and, if he did, that he would pardon her for what she was about to do. Hours later, Sakura was awakened by the sound of explosions around her hiding place, which made her smile sinisterly. At last, they were here, and she walked out calmly to a scene that was amusing to her. At least to her, the sound team was standing, barely, in front of her, and unlike the last time, Sakura's traps around the perimeter of her hiding place had seriously damaged them. They were all out of breath and appeared to be ready to drop, but judging by the angry expressions on their faces, they still wanted a fight, and Sakura was more than willing to give it to them. Sakura remarked amusedly, looks like all of you had some trouble with my traps. You're a bitch, Zaku yelled, I'll freaking kill you. No, you won't. Sakura slammed her hands on the ground and flew through hand signs right away, Earth style. Chains of the underworld jutsu. Before the sound team could react, chains sprang out of the ground and wrapped themselves around their bodies, arms, and legs, rendering them immobile. What the devil? Let's leave or what? You said you were going to kill me, didn't you? Sakura said, no, I think I'll just take your scroll, and as she approached Dosu, she was about to reach into his jacket when Dosu's gauntlet exploded with a loud noise, pushing Sakura back a few feet. Did you really think I would be so defenseless, fool? I can use my jutsu without moving my arm, Dosu mockingly said. Let's see if you can hold your jutsu with the effects from my attack. He was taken aback by Sakura's grin. Sakura grinned as she said, I think I'll be able to keep up my jutsu just fine, seeing that your jutsu won't be affecting me at all. Not possible. It struck directly. You ought to be aware of the harm to your eardrum and inner ear. You ought to be immobile. When Sakura made a single hand gesture, the chain around Dosu's gauntlet began to tighten until there was a loud cracking noise and a painful scream. What a bitch! Kin screamed, you broke his arm. I apologize. Did you say anything? Sakura jeered, I used my chakra to make a barrier that prevents any sound from getting into my ears, so I can't hear you. However, I no longer need your little toy now that it's broken. How? How did you know how to block my attack? Dosu gasped in apparent pain. Sakura was already searching through his coat when she joyfully discovered 2 scrolls inside, a full set. Well, that sure makes things easier, she said. Don't worry about how I found out about your attack. To Sakura remarked nonchalantly, neither of you 3 will live long enough to give a damn. Kin began, but you already have our scrollsa. Don't waste your time. I am aware that you attacked my team because of that snake. He was going to kill you after the exams anyhow, if that gives you any comfort. Sakura began to make a number of hand signals. Hold on. Stop. Earth style. Spiked coffin jutsu. Sakura slammed her hands on the ground, and 3 coffins that looked ancient rose from the ground behind each of the sound ninja. When the coffins were opened, It was discovered that they contained dozens of stone spikes that would kill anyone inside when the doors were closed. Sakura then used another hand sign to retract the chains that were now visible to be attached to the coffins. Slamming the sound ninja into the opened coffins, they screamed in agony as they were impaled all over their bodies, but they were still alive when the doors closed on them. Earth style. Shallow grave jutsu. Sakura watched as her jutsu dragged the coffins back into the ground, and once they were completely gone, she went back to the tree hollow to tend to her teammates. She was glad to see Naruto awake a few minutes later and told him what had happened, but not much about what had actually happened to her or Sasuke. As they were speaking, Sakura noticed that there were a number of people outside. Naruto, I think we have company. Are you ready for a fight? In actuality, Sakura knew that she could take anyone in the exam except perhaps Gaara, but she would have to demonstrate more of her abilities than she wanted to at the time. I can take the lead, but if you can support me, we should be fine. Naruto replied, you know I'm always up for a fight. Sakura, let's go. Sakura and Naruto went outside and looked around to see who was hiding, sensing that it was Ino and her team and Lee and his team, who she assumed were drawn here by the explosions that were heard when the sound ninja appeared. Naruto made some shadow clones to stand on either side of them while they waited to see if either team would attack. Alongside Team 10, Choji asked, so, what do you guys want to do? We can take them. I say Sasuke appears to be injured, so now would be the ideal time to pursue them, Ino stated. Yeah, and if Sasuke was awake you would be complaining about going after his team, replied Shikamaru. What are we waiting for, anyway? With impatience, she said. We're waiting because, in contrast to you, I've been listening. There are others here besides us. We should wait and see what occurs, in my opinion. Yes, Choji replied. All right, Ino said. With Team Guy. Neji deactivated his Byakugan and said, the Uchiha is unconscious. The other two shouldn't be much of a challenge. We'll take them now. Tenten said, okay. Lee nodded in agreement but didn't appear pleased. Several of Naruto's clones were dispelled as dozens of kunai and shuriken descended upon Sakura and Naruto, giving them little time to react. Although neither of them was hurt in the attack, they encountered opponents who were prepared to carry on the assault. As Neji faced Sakura, Lee attacked Naruto. While Naruto attempted to block as many blows as he could with his bracers and shin guards, Lee used his speed to deliver multiple blows to Naruto. Naruto used some of his remaining clones to get Lee's attention because he knew he would lose if things kept going this way. Naruto had gained the few valuable seconds he needed to make his move, but Lee was able to quickly dispatch them later. Naruto hoped he wouldn't be killed for it. Sexy Jutsu. Sakura style. The sight of a nude Sakura in front of Lee, her most intimate parts obscured by tiny clouds of smoke, stopped him cold. A gigantic nosebleed of epic proportions blasted Lee into a tree in a matter of seconds. He landed unconscious but grinning broadly. Sakura versus Neji. Sakura kept dodging Neji's blows, thinking, I'm going to kill him for that. Sakura could have imagined the outcome after hearing Naruto's attack later on. She would have to discipline Hima, possibly not too far away, but not really killing him. You're better than I thought. Perhaps the Senju blood in you is stronger than I estimated, Neji replied. Blood has nothing to do with one's skill. I have worked hard for my strength, but I suppose it helps that I'm familiar with your fighting style after working with Hinata. Neji turned on his Byakugan and scowled. That weakling is nothing but a failure. To compare me to her is an insult you will soon regret. Neji growled at Sakura. She gestured toward the clearing and said, I wouldn't count on that. Look around you. Neji could see what she meant with his Byakugan. There were dozens of Naruto clones in the clearing. Furthermore, it appeared that the real one had somehow gotten close enough to Tenten to fight her up close. Tenten was utilizing a pair of tonfa to fend off Naruto and his clones, but Neji could see that he was unrelenting, and she would eventually be overpowered. It doesn't matter. Once I deal with you, I will deal with that loser easily enough. A huge burst of chakra came from the tree hollow where Sasuke was just as Neji was about to make his next move. Sakura understood what it meant and knew that if Sasuke lost his mind, things would get messy. You can't handle us all by yourself. Neji, you can sense the chakra emanating from Sasuke, and trust me, you don't want anything to do with it. Leave now or you're endangering not just your life but also the lives of your teammates. Even though Neji was conceited, he was not a fool. He understood that Sakura was correct and that a tactical retreat was necessary. Tenten, grab Lee. We're leaving. He turned to Sakura and said, this isn't over, Senju, and I will pay you back for that insult. She replied, don't forget that it's Haruno. Team Guy left shortly after, and Sakura was prepared for it before Sasuke could inquire as to what was happening. Sakura appeared behind him and used her medical ninjutsu to knock him unconscious once more, causing the chakra from the curse mark to vanish. Alongside Team 10, wow, no way, troublesome. Have you noticed that? How did Sakura and Naruto become so skilled? Choji inquired. We're fortunate that we didn't attack them, but I'm not sure we wouldn't have won. What a drag, Shikamaru remarked. Now what? Ino inquired. I'm not going to mess with them now, so we're leaving. My plan was predicated on the idea that we were either evenly matched or marginally stronger than them, which is obviously untrue, Shikamaru responded. So we search for another team and hope to get lucky. Okay, fine. Let's go. Team 10 was then left to find a new opponent. Several days later, Team 7 was in the tower as the Hokage explained the reason for the Chunin exams. Sakura and her team had been questioned about their encounter with Orochimaru once they made it to the tower. Sakura noticed that the same teams made it to the tower this time around, with the Dead Sound team being the only exception. Like last time when they asked if anybody wanted to quit, only Kabuto said he couldn't continue. Sakura had hoped to hunt down Kabuto or attack him if he tried to pull the same story of being separated from his team, but they never saw him in the forest. She would have to get him later. Sakura's attention returned to the arena as Hinata was about to begin the preliminary matches. Sakura had to admit, she was curious as to how things were going to play out this time around. After all, without the sound team, things couldn't be exactly as they were the first time. As the names began to flash, Sakura suddenly felt her chest tighten. A feeling of dread came over her. Then the names finally stopped. The first match of the preliminary exams, Wasa. Hinata Hyuga versus Neji Hyuga. Sakura muttered, "Oh, you have to be kidding me. Isn't he one of the three that attacked us in the forest? He's in Bushy Brow's team, right?" replied Naruto. "Yes, and he is also one of the strongest opponents in the exam. Especially for Hinata because of some family issues they have," Sakura replied. She turned to Hinata, who appeared to be about to pass out. Hinata's rapid breathing was visible to Sakura. Kurenai put her hand on Hinata's shoulder and spoke to her in a helpful whisper. After that, Hinata descended gradually to the battleground. Hinata heard a shout as she reached the bottom. Naruto was applauding her and saying, "Go for it, Hinata, I know you can win." Sakura cheered for her friend after grinning. "That's right, Hinata. Just like training, you can do this." Kiba and Akamaru, not to be outdone, also exclaimed. Hinata felt a surge of happiness. Naruto and her friends both had faith in her. She would try her hardest, she would prevail. As Hinata descended, Neji scowled at her. For once in his life, it seemed that luck had been on his side. He was aware of how embarrassing Hinata was to the Hyuga. The spoiled little princess should have been terrified to confront him, as Neji could see, until the orange-clad idiot began yelling like a fool. Even worse, the Senju and the idiot with the mutt soon joined him. Hearing the other failures applaud her caused a change in Hinata's eyes. Neji had never witnessed the timid girl exhibit such fierce intensity and determination. Well, he thought, this might be interesting after all. Hayate commanded Neji and Hinata to start as soon as they were facing one another. Neji was tempted to make fun of Hinata before they interacted. "Before we begin, I should tell you this. Withdraw now. A failure like you was never meant to be a ninja." "No," was all Hinata had to say, adopting her gentle fist position. Neji was taken aback because he thought his words would affect her more. "You're too kind and gentle. You seek harmony and avoid conflict. You are too easily influenced by others. Admit it. You have no confidence and feel inferior to everyone here." Before responding to Neji, Hinata inhaled deeply. "If you had told me this a few months ago, you would have been right, but things have changed, Neji. I have changed. I don't run away. I don't back down. A very important friend taught me that you are who you make yourself to be." He growled as he took his stance and used his Byakugan, saying, "You may think you have changed, but you haven't. You're still a failure, and a failure will always be a failure." Without bothering to respond, Hinata turned on her Byakugan and got ready for battle. Both Hyuga charged at one another in response to an invisible signal. Both Hinata and Neji attempted to hit and parry each other's blows, but their battle was so quick that those in their immediate vicinity only saw their attacks as blurs. This continued for a few moments, and while the fight seemed evenly matched to an untrained eye, Sakura and others could see that Neji was gradually gaining the upper hand. Subsequently, Hinata seemed to have struck Neji directly at that moment. As they waited to see what would happen, everyone held their breath when Hinata abruptly coughed up blood. Sakura and Naruto were appalled. Hinata persisted and made another attempt to harm Neji. Neji easily countered, hitting one of her chakra points and snatching her arm with one hand. With a sly smile, Neji withdrew Hinata's coat to reveal that he had sealed off multiple chakra points on her left arm. "You mean that Hinata instantly escaped Neji's hold and leapt back a few feet. "That's right, Hinata. I could see your chakra points the whole time." "Look, Hinata, I'm way out of your league. This is what separates the elite from the failures. You may not like it, but from the moment I was chosen as your opponent, your fate was sealed. You were destined to fail. This is your last warning, Hinata. Forfeit the match." "I told you, Neji. I don't run away and I don't go back on my word, because that is my ninja way. Neji said, I see, well Thina, and said, bring it, activating his Byakugan. You heard him Hinata. Sakura was the one who had the shout, show him and everyone here just how much you have changed. Naruto exclaimed, that's right Hinata, you can do it, I believe in you. Hinata grinned she said, I'm not the same Hinata that you used to know, but she acknowledged that she had changed and that she could accomplish this. Everyone's eyes, including Neji's, widened. Sakura grinned, she had anticipated this. The object that had everyone's eyes wide open was Hinata's right hand, which started to glow green when she touched her left arm with her glowing hand. Everyone could see how quickly Hinata's arm healed. Impossible. Neji whispered about it, at the viewing area for contestants. Kakashi inquired, Kurenai, when did you teach Hinata medical ninjutsu? I had no idea that she knew any medical ninjutsu. I knew she made some healing ointments but I didn't know she could do anything like this. Kurenai replied. Like everyone else, she was taken aback. If you didn't teach her this, then who did? I doubt her clan would teach her something like this, Asuma replied. She learned it from me. Sakura caught everyone's attention. Hinata has almost perfect chakra control, and with her Byakugan, she would make an excellent medic for her team. I showed her the basics that I have learned and she learned them faster than I did when I started. But you're a genin. How do you even know medical ninjutsu? Replied Asuma. You know who Sakura is related to Asuma, it's in her blood. Kakashi replied. Sakura remained silent because it seemed that everyone was satisfied. She and the others returned their focus to the match. In the arena, Neji watched in shock as Hinata repaired the chakra points he had damaged. You're a disgrace to the Hyuga to think you would fall so low that you would resort to ninjutsu. Perhaps I shouldn't be surprised. Your skill in the gentle fist is pathetic. What other choice would a weakling like you have? You're wrong Neji. Our clan has let their arrogance blind them. They foolishly believe they're the most powerful. They believe any form of change is wrong, but as ninja we have to learn to change, we have to adapt, or else we are rendered obsolete. Increasing our skill and strength by learning new things should be encouraged, not scorned. This changes nothing Hinata, you are still destined to lose. Hinata then activated her Byakugan and charged at Neji, saying, if I lose today, it won't be because fate decreed it, it will be because you were better than me. But even if that is the case, I won't make it easy for you. Neji was about to confront her once more when he noticed that Hinata's attack was different. He was about to parry one of Hinata's strikes when he became aware of the difference. Hinata's blow grazed Neji's right shoulder as he attempted a last-minute dodge. Neji felt a sharp pain that almost knocked him down for Hinata's next blow, but he managed to completely avoid it. Neji knew he would regret it if Hinata's hands hit him, but he was unsure of exactly what Hinata was doing differently right now. All he could do was dodge her attacks, but Neji knew he needed to do something else or lose the match. Neji had to use his trump card, and he gritted his teeth. Hinata was on the verge of delivering a strong blow when rotation. Neji's counterattack took everyone by surprise, even though he had not yet mastered the technique. Hinata was blasted off her feet and slammed into a nearby wall. Neji was obviously exhausted from the attack because he was breathing heavily when he stopped spinning. To everyone's surprise, Hinata actually began to stand up. Neji was struggling to stay upright and knew he couldn't allow this match to go on much longer. Hinata managed to get to her feet, but she was forced to her knees and more blood was forced up when she was struck in the chest by a palm strike. Neji walked away slowly, saying, it's over. No matter how much you try to run from fate, a failure will always be a failure. When Hinata spoke, Hayate had had enough and was about to call the match. Hinata slowly stood up, saying, Noah, you have it wrong. Neji. She was obviously not in a fit state to fight. I can see it clearly. It is you who is running. You're running from your pain because you're afraid. You're the one who's suffering because of the differences between the main and branch houses. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Then Neji's face took on an expression of unbridled anger. Then a number of things occurred when Hayate saw Neji charging at Hinata. He shouted that the match was over after just a few steps. Neji found himself encircled. Kakashi had grasped Neji's right hand, and Guy had seized his pupil from behind. Kurenai had grasped Neji's left hand, but Hayate stood in front of him, obstructing his path with a cigarette in his mouth. Asuma stood beside Kurenai, watching sheepishly as the other teachers passed him by before him. Neji, you told me you wouldn't let this clan business get to you, Guy replied. Why are you and the other Jonin butting in? The main house gets more special treatment, huh? Neji growled. Asuma tilted his head in Hinata's direction and said, perhaps you should pay better attention. Why don't you use those eyes you're so proud of and look over there? Neji was perplexed by the statement. Then you will realize we're actually doing you a favor, kid. That is, until he turned to face Hinata. His eyes widened in surprise at what he saw. A wall of orange-clad Narutos stood in front of Hinata. and they all had angry expressions on their faces. Orochimaru had used the man-beast clone, and the two feral-looking Kibas at the center flanked both sides of what must be the real Naruto. A threatening black cloud of insects hovered over them, buzzing loudly, and obviously hostile. Sakura was tending to an unconscious Hinata when a stoic Shino stood guard behind the defensive wall. "Damn him. She has major damage to her heart, he nearly killed her," screaming Sakura out of the corner of her eye. She noticed that the medical personnel was approaching them, and Sakura knew that they couldn't handle this type of injury. "Shino, I need more time to heal her. Keep them away from us for a little longer," she replied without a word. The cloud of insects formed a wall that prevented the medical personnel from getting to them, so Shino didn't bother to question her. One of the medics exclaimed, "What do you think you're doing? She needs medical attention." Shino paid close attention to Sakura's hand glowing green, ignoring them as Sakura's chakra entered Hinata's body. Shino could see the focus on her face. Slowly but surely, he could see the color returning to Hinata's pale face and the scars on her face starting to heal. Although Shino was not well versed in medical ninjutsu, he was aware that Sakura had just performed a highly sophisticated move. Sakura said, "You can let them take her now, Hinata is going to be okay," and stepped aside. Shino received his insects back, and the medical staff hurried to reach Hinata. After Naruto defeated his clones, Kiba and Orochimaru resumed their regular lives. Naruto continued to give Neji the death glare. Sakura told Naruto that Neji almost killed Hinata. Hinata coughed up some blood, which Naruto could see when he looked down. Naruto stood up and gave Neji a scowl after bending down and running his fingers through the blood to get it on his hand. Neji grinned when he saw this. Neji believed he saw the blonde's eyes change from blue to red, and he asked, "Got something to say to me, loser?" Naruto glared at Neji with his bloody fist. Naruto said solemnly, "I will make you pay for this, I swear it." Even though Neji would never acknowledge it, a chill went through his body. "As if a pathetic failure like you could ever hope to match my power. You're no different than Hinata. And if we fight, I will make sure to kick you down in the gutter where a loser like you belongs," Neji said with a sneer. "Okay. I need all of you to leave the arena for the next match." Hayate said. The names for the following match were drawn after the arena had been cleared. Rock Lee vs Yoroi Akato. Angry, Lee exclaimed, "Yes, it is my turn at last." Both opponents arrived at the arena in a short amount of time. Sakura was relieved that this opponent would not injure Lee the way he had the last time. She hoped it wasn't Naruto, though, because she was worried about who would have to battle Gaara this time. Sakura was aware that Naruto was more powerful than before, but she didn't believe he could defeat Gaara right now, not without expelling a significant amount of the fox's chakra. It wasn't a particularly entertaining match. Yoroi was not given the opportunity to attempt absorbing Lee's chakra. Lee used a series of strong taijutsu moves and his incredible speed to quickly put his opponent down. Tenten vs Tamari. Witnessing this match for the second time was just as agonizing as the first. Kiba Inuzuka vs Sasuke Uchiha. Sakura would not have believed how evenly this match was played. Kiba seemed to have been devastated by his loss. Since then, Kiba had been intensifying his training and giving Sasuke as much as he could take. After the battle with Orochimaru, Sasuke was still not entirely recovered. Both Kiba and Orochimaru were attacking constantly, making it difficult for Sasuke to handle them. Sasuke made a last-ditch attempt to eliminate Kiba with the Loin's Barrage, a move he had imitated from Lee during his fight. Since Orochimaru wasn't technically a fighter, Hayate gave the match to Sasuke with Kiba out. The next match was announced after the medics took Kiba and Kakashi took Sasuke. Gaara vs Sakura. Haruno. Are you serious? Why, of all people, did it have to be him? Sakura thought. Good luck, Sakura. Naruto smiled. She said, "Thanks, Naruto, I think I'm going to need it." And then she headed to the arena. Gaara was standing there already, his arms folded across his chest. Hayate said, "You can start if you're both ready." Everyone watched as a dense mist covered the arena below, accompanied by the words, "Here goes nothing." A water style, hidden mist jutsu. Asuma questioned Naruto, "Did Kakashi teach Sakura that jutsu?" "Yes, she asked him to teach it to her shortly after we came back from Wave Country. Sakura was able to learn it rather quickly too," Naruto replied. Asuma remarked, "That's impressive." Gaara didn't appear impressed. Down in the arena, the mist started to blow away from him as his sand began to spin around him so quickly. Sakura charged directly at him as she emerged from the fog, holding a kunai in each hand. When Sakura got close, Gaara's sand reacted on its own and shot at her, so he didn't try to stop her. The next scene was shown to Naruto in slow motion. Sakura was impaled through the chest by Gaara's sand, and her face broke into a painfully shocked expression. "Sakura!" Naruto was about to leap to the ground when the arena exploded with a loud explosion. Everyone looked down after the explosion was over to see a flawlessly fine Sakura who didn't seem to have moved since the beginning of the match. Gaara had been battered against the wall on the opposite side, although his gourd had resorted to sand to lessen the force of the wall impact. His sand armor was clearly cracked. Gaara appeared enraged. He hurled his sand at Sakura as soon as he was off the wall. Sakura was prepared to receive him. Water style. Water bullet jutsu. Sakura dodged the rest of the large water bullets that she fired from her mouth at the sand, preventing the majority from reaching her. As he chased Sakura around the arena with his sand, Gaara's expression changed to one of insanity. It wasn't until it was nearly too late that he realized there was another Sakura approaching from behind. Gaara was fortunate to be saved by his sand, which caught Sakura by the throat. Gaara looked over at her. His words, "Your blood will please mother." Sakura merely grinned. Sakura said, "I can't believe you fell for it again." Right before the area was shattered by another explosion, Gaara bounced all over the arena floor. Something was different about the second explosion. Gaara was soaked. When he stood up, he had wet lumps of sand armor falling off, most of it. Gaara roared, "Why you hurt me? You actually caused me pain. I'll kill you," as a huge wave of sand arose from the earth and flew in Sakura's direction. Sakura's breathing was labored. She had been exhausted by the exploding water clone. She was cursing her younger body once more. Sakura was forced to use the seals in her sweatbands to extract chakra. Sakura slammed her hands together and sent out a powerful chakra pulse that blasted Gaara's sand back. As soon as the sand was near her, she attempted to jump back toward the wall in an attempt to gain some separation from the sand. A tendril of sand, however, wrapped around Sakura's ankle as she was mid-jumping and sent her crashing to the ground. "Kami, that was painful," Sakura thought as she fought to stand. She had barely gotten to her feet when she was struck hard by a pillar of sand in the middle of her chest, which caused her to crash into the wall behind her. Sakura collapsed face first to the ground, and although she was still conscious, it was obvious that she could no longer fight. Hayate declared, "This match is over. Gaara is the winner." Gaara held up his hand and his sand started to cover Sakura, saying, "This match isn't over until mother tastes blood." However, it didn't go very far because Gaara was sent crashing against the opposite wall after a strong fist struck the side of his face. Surrounded by a red aura, the room watched in disbelief as a feral-looking Naruto stood with his fist outstretched. He snarled, "Touch her again and I kill you," saying, glaring at the blonde. Gaara stumbled to his feet and seemed determined to continue the fight until Baki appeared in front of him. His words, "That's enough, Gaara." Gaara gave his teacher a fierce look but walked away without saying anything more. Naruto had hurried to Sakura's side during this time in a worried tone. He asked, "Are you okay, Sakura?" Sakura was interrupted when Naruto's lips slammed into hers. "I'm fine, Naruto. I think I have a few bruised ribs, but other than that I'm fine. You don't need Toa." Sakura was so taken aback that she didn't kiss him back right away, but after the shock subsided, she put an arm around Naruto and kissed him again. Sakura didn't remember her location until she heard Hayate cough. Sakura and Naruto both turned to look at the shocked expressions on everyone's faces as they stopped kissing. Kakashi stated, "I knew something was going on with them." Kakashi had just arrived. Sakura appeared concerned, while Naruto appeared ashamed. When she glanced at the other members of Team 8, she became particularly concerned. Sakura could almost see the rage radiating from Kurenai's red eyes even though he was more difficult to read. Shino was clearly frowning. Sakura could feel his glare on her despite his dark sunglasses. They appeared enraged. She thought, "They probably think I've been playing with Hinata's feelings or something." Later Sakura would have to deal with it. She and Naruto returned to the contestant viewing area after she and Naruto argued with the medics and then Naruto that she didn't need to go to the medical wing. The next two games passed by in a flash. Choji performed better than most anticipated when he faced Masumi Tsurugi. Masumi's jutsu was overpowered by the Akamichi's ability to enlarge his body, even though Kabuto's teammate attempted to use his ability to manipulate Choji's joints. Ino and Shikamaru faced off in the following match. Shikamaru successfully evaded Ino's mind jutsu and trapped him in his shadow possession jutsu, just as Sakura had anticipated. Instead of having her head smashed against the wall, as Shikamaru had done to Kin in the previous timeline, Ino was made to forfeit. The final match, Issa, Naruto Uzumaki vs Shino Aburame. Naruto exclaimed, "It's my turn at last." Be careful, Naruto. Shino is very good. He is smart and great with strategy. He can use his bugs with amazing control and is just as good without them. He is one of the strongest opponents here, Sakura said. "Yeah, okay. He also looks mad. Do you have any idea why?" "I don't think I have done anything. Just concentrate on the match for now. We'll worry about that later," Sakura replied. Naruto said, "I guess you're right." He then headed to the arena, where Shino was waiting for him. "Be careful with him, Shino. Whether it was a fluke or not, he was able to defeat a Jonin," Kurenai said. I will be careful, sensei, Shino declared. Naruto remarked. So good luck, Shino. Shino gave him a long look before responding. You have hurt my teammates' feelings. I normally do not let my emotions determine my actions. But for you I will make an exception. I will defeat you and it will not be painless, Shino said with a voice full of rage. Naruto was perplexed by Shino's remarks, but Hayate initiated the fight before he could give it much thought. Shino instantly raised his hands and pursued Naruto with his bugs. In response, Naruto made a dozen shadow clones. Shino was attacked by the Naruto clones, but his bugs swiftly engulfed and defeated them all using the smoke as cover. Naruto approached Shino and launched a sneak attack, but before he could do anything, Shino scattered into bugs. When Naruto's fist made contact with him, Naruto felt a searing pain throughout his body as the bugs started to drain his chakra, and he collapsed to the ground. You were careless. Now my bugs will drain you of all your chakra. I have made sure that they target the chakra points near your joints. It increases the amount of pain you will endure, Shino said in his trademark monotone. Naruto was hurting a lot. Naruto Uzumaki, however, did not give up easily. Naruto said, "You'll have to do better than that, buddy," and got back up. Shino remarked, "It's pointless. You can't get away from my bugs." After saying, "Well, I guess you don't know me very well, do you?" Naruto started using all of his chakra. He started to radiate blue light. There was simply too much chakra for Shino's bugs to use up. Shino was unable to understand how this was taking place. This gave Naruto the opportunity to close in on Shino. Shino was as proficient in taijutsu as anyone else, and Sakura had been correct. Naruto was unable to strike. Naruto was losing strength every second. Shino's bugs had had enough of his chakra and were no longer on him. Naruto created 2 shadow clones with the last of his chakra and then charged at Shino. Shino used some shuriken to ward off the clones, but he briefly lost sight of Naruto before the latter snuck up behind him and seized Shino from behind, locking his arms and preventing Shino from escaping. "I got you," Naruto exclaimed. "So you have, but I fail to see what good it can do for you since you can't do me any harm with the hold you're using," Shino replied. "Why don't you listen carefully then? I'm sure you'll hear it," Naruto replied. Shino listened and followed Naruto's instructions. Soon after, he heard a sound he recognized coming from the floor. Shino looked and saw a kunai next to his foot that had an active explosion tag on it. "You didn't notice my clone throw that at the last minute because you were sure you had struck it with your shrunken. Now you can either forfeit or we can wait till it goes off in a few seconds. What do you say?" replied Naruto. "You wouldn't. You'll be in the blast too. You'll be hurt more. You're closer." "Proctor, I forfeit the match," Shino declared. Winner of the final match is Naruto Uzumaki. In her hospital room, Hinata sat quietly and gazed out the window. She was disappointed that she was unable to advance to the Chunin exam's final round. She felt as though someone had just stabbed her in the chest, but that wasn't because Neji had nearly killed her in the process. What she had discovered after leaving the arena was the cause of her melancholy. Flashback: Kurenai and Shino entered the hospital room where Hinata was sitting with Kiba, who had come to visit her after he had his wounds attended to. The expression in her sensei's eyes told Hinata right away that something was amiss. Kiba must not have seen it. As though it were clear that Shino had passed, he said, "Hey, if you guys are here then the matches must be over, so who else passed Shino?" The Chunin exam's third round was reached by Neji Hyuga, Sasuke Uchiha, Temari, Kankuro and Gaara from the Sand Village, Rock Lee, Choji Akamichi, Shikamaru Nara, and Naruto Uzumaki. Hearing that Naruto had moved on to the next round made Hinata smile, but she could tell something was bothering her sensei because she saw an angry expression that wasn't typical of Kurenai's sensei. Hinata wanted to ask what was wrong, but Kiba wasn't done. "What? Did Naruto even pass? The fact that I failed makes me feel even worse, man. Who, then, did Naruto battle? The opponent must have been simple, right?" Kurenai scowled at Kiba. "He gets into trouble because of this attitude." According to Kurenai, Kiba, Naruto fought Shino. Naruto beat Shino. Hinata was disappointed for her teammate, and Kiba was taken aback. She wasn't sure if she should still be happy for Naruto. But that's not possible. Shino is unbeatable, Orochimaru, and I can't even touch him when we spar. How did Naruto beat him? I underestimated him. Naruto was more skilled and unpredictable than I originally gave him credit for. Perhaps I was blinded by my emotions and was unable to think logically during the match, Shino said in a monotone tone. Shino's description of Naruto as unpredictable did not surprise Kiba or Hinata. They were both taken aback when he claimed to be emotional, which they would not characterize Shino Aburame as. Kiba was interrupted by Kurenai before he could respond. "Hinata, I'm afraid there is something I have to tell you." The flashback's end, she had heard what transpired in the arena from Kurenai. Hinata experienced betrayal and heartbreak. Naruto had always harbored feelings for Sakura, so Hinata was not overly shocked to learn that he loved her. Hinata knew it might happen someday. Even though it hurt, the fact that Sakura had been deceiving her was what hurt her the most. Sakura had grown to be her best friend and confidant over the past few months. Sakura had helped Hinata gain confidence and pushed her to train more. Sakura had given Hinata confidence. However, it had all been false all along. Sakura had been deceiving her. Everyone, with the exception of Naruto, knew how Hinata felt about Naruto, and Sakura was aware of that. Sakura was such a fool, knowing that she had still convinced Hinata that she could find happiness if she persisted, and that Hinata had believed her. The sound of Hinata's room door opening startled her out of her reverie when she saw who had entered. Her eyes widened a little before narrowing into an angry glare. Sakura was the one. "What are you doing here? Have you come to have your laugh? To tell me what a fool you have been making out of me? You can save it, get out." Sakura recoiled at Hinata's stern remarks. Sakura was saddened by her friend's words of rage and pain because she never wanted to harm Hinata. "We have to talk, Hinata, and I'm not leaving until we do." Hinata continued to glare at Sakura and said, "I have nothing to say to you." Hinata turned away from her and said, "Well, I have plenty to say to you." Sakura was hurt to see her in this state. Hinata whispered, "Why?" while continuing to turn her head away from Sakura. "What made you tell me lies?" "I'm sorry. I just wanted to help to assist. That's why you've been lying?" Hinata asked, turning to glare at Sakura once more. "Why did you tell me that you and Naruto were just teammates and friends?" "Actually, I never said we were only friends and teammates, I just said we were close," replied Sakura. Hinata's lavender-colored eyes were overflowing with tears, and she said, "You knew how I felt for him, you knew that I love him." "Yes, I know that you love Naruto. So why did you give me the impression that I could date him? Why?" Hinata began to sob quietly as she asked. Sakura closed her eyes and answered Hinata in a whisper so low that Hinata nearly missed it because she couldn't bear to see her best friend in such pain that she had caused. "Because I needed you to know you could be happy with him." Hinata wasn't sure if she had understood Sakura. "What?" Before responding to Hinata, Sakura inhaled deeply and exhaled. "Our world will be torn apart by the impending storm. If we are not ready for it, I'm willing to go to any lengths to ensure our people's survival, even if it means losing my life." Sakura meant every word she said, and even though Hinata didn't understand what she was talking about, she could see the fierce determination in her eyes. "What do you mean?" "Hinata, I mean a war, a bloody, destructive war that will wipe out everything we value. I doubt I'll make it through this war if something were to happen to me. I know that you, Hinata, would be the one to make Naruto happy because I know that you love him. I was being self-centered, but only because I wanted you two to have a chance in the event that I didn't make it." "Which war? Sakura, what are you talking about? Are you familiar with the memory mirror jutsu?" Sakura sighed. What do you do? Hinata, are you familiar with it?" It is true that the jutsu was created during the Second Great Ninja War. It was created specifically to be applied to ninja who were being tried for crimes against the village, such as treason, insubordination, or carelessness. Although the jutsu allows users to project their memories, false memories cannot be brought forth due to the way the chakra collects the projection from the user's mind, which is why it was used during trials. "Good, then you know what I'm about to show you is the truth." "What is the truth?" Hinata inquired. "The reality of our future, a future that will materialize. If there is no way for me to alter it." Hinata was about to ask a question when Sakura interrupted, saying, "I know I already told you about it, and Naruto did too. First, I'm going to show you the memories of my first C-rank mission. Simply observe and let me know if you see anything that differs from what was explained to you." Sakura performed a number of hand signs. Jutsu memory mirror. Hinata watched as an oval-shaped mirror materialized in front of them. She didn't have to wait long as soon images appeared in the mirror. At first it was just as Sakura and Naruto had described their mission, at least until they encountered the two enemy ninja. That's when things started to go different from what she had been told. It was not Sakura and Naruto but Sasuke and Kakashi that stopped the demon brothers. Sakura's memories then changed to the battle with Zabuza, and that too was different. It was Naruto and Sasuke that teamed up to save Kakashi. The final set of memories showed Zabuza and his apprentice being killed and later buried in simple graves. Hinata had been told that both had survived the battle and had been allowed to leave in peace. It didn't make any sense. When Sakura finally ended the jutsu, Hinata spoke to her. "That is different from what you and Naruto told me. Why would I?" "Hinata is someone I know. Memory mirror jutsu. This is the mission we mentioned to you." Hinata was more perplexed than ever when Sakura's memories reappeared, but this time they were precisely as Sakura and Naruto had described them to her. "That isn't feasible. How is it possible to have two distinct sets of accurate memories of the same event?" A bewildered Hinata remarked. "It doesn't make any sense." Sakura told Hinata everything that would happen in the future, but more importantly, she showed Hinata what would happen in the future. She showed Hinata what happened during the Chunin exam finals, how the third Hokage was buried, how Tsunade became the fifth Hokage, and how her team fought the Akatsuki. Later, Sakura showed her the first battle against Akatsuki, where the Alliance army defeated the undead shinobi and clone army, but sadly, Madara Uchiha and Sasuke Uchiha were able to escape. The memory that followed made Hinata's heart sing as she watched the village celebrate the naming of the sixth Hokage, and she shed tears of happiness when she saw Naruto realize his dream. The next memory made Hinata sad. It was of Sakura's marriage to Naruto. She was happy with Naruto and later gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, named after Naruto's mother. The next memory was of the Leaf Village getting ready for war, and this time it appeared that the Alliance would win because the Uchiha and Sasuke Uchiha's army was composed of mercenaries and Rouge Ninja. But Madara unleashed the captured Baiju, and the tailed beasts wreaked havoc on the Alliance army without their containers and under the ancient Uchiha's command. Sakura was the bearer of bad news, and Naruto was standing with the leaders of the other villages, trying to figure out how to deal with the tailed beast, when an older Sakura entered the Alliance command tent to find her husband. Naruto. Everyone in the room turned to stare at her. Sakura, what's wrong? I'm sorry to inform you that Madara has captured Killer Bee. We don't know how long it will be before they have the 8 tails on their side, and the left flank had been badly weakened. It appears that we need a change of plans, Naruto said, looking composed and deterred as the news sent anxious murmurs through the room. We will command the main army to withdraw to give the rest of you time to withdraw to the fallback position where we will have a better chance of fending off the Uchiha's forces. Myself and 100 others will stay in the rear guard position. I'm staying with Yua. No, in my place, you will command the Leaf forces. Buddha. Sakura knew from the expression on his face that Naruto would not back down, so she agreed to his plans after the meeting ended and everyone else had gone to get ready. Only Naruto and Sakura were left in Naruto's tent. But nothing, Sakura. You will do as I say even if I have ordered you to do it as your Hokage. You should go and prepare for tomorrow, Sakura. If you think that I'm going to spend this night with anyone but my husband, that I'm afraid you're mistaken, Hokage-sama. I apologize for that. However, I must ensure your safety, Sakura. In order to hold her husband, Sakura put her arms around his shoulders and said, "Promise me you will come home to your family." "I promise that I will make sure all of you are safe," he replied. "That's not what I asked." His lips found Sakura's, and she spent one final night in her husband's arms. "I know, but that's the only promise I can make to you," he said. The next day, Sakura assisted in leading the Alliance army. As the army marched, they all felt a huge chakra release, which was followed by a powerful explosion. The ground trembled so much that many of them fell, and everyone turned to see a huge mushroom cloud rise from the location of the battlefield. Sakura felt her heart sink because she knew something terrible had happened because of the mushroom cloud. "Konohamaru, I'm putting you in charge of the Leaf Ninja." "What? Why?" he inquired. "I'm returning. I need to make sure Naruto is okay," she said, despite several people's attempts to stop her. She led an Anbu team back to the battlefield, and the sight that greeted them left them all in disbelief. The plain that had served as their battlefield was completely destroyed, and all that was left was a massive crater with scorched earth and the lingering smell of burning flesh. What worried Sakura was that there was no sign of life anywhere. As she approached the center of the crater, she noticed a lone figure lying on the ground, a figure dressed in the shattered remnants of the Hokage robes. As Sakura hurried to her husband's side, she thought, "No, dear Kami, please no." She fell to her knees and began using advanced medical ninjutsu on Naruto right away, and a few seconds later, she saw him open his eyes. Sakura. Save your strength and don't talk to Naruto." Sakura felt his life slipping away as she said, "I'm going to make you good as new." This only motivated her to work even harder. "I don't have a lot of time, as we both know the Fox is the only reason I'm still alive at the moment." Tears streamed down Sakura's face, and she let out a sob, thinking that this must be how Tsunade felt when she lost Dan. "I killed Sasuke. There will never be any more tailed bee beasts. My only regret is that I won't be able to witness Kushina's maturity. Let her know how much I adore her and how proud I am of her." Sakura could see that his eyes had lost their focus and the vivid cerulean blue she had come to love. They appeared to be staring off into the distance. As they grew dimmer, Sakura felt Naruto's heart was beating painfully slowly and knew it would be a while before it stopped, so she embraced his body in her direction. Sakura. "I love why you so much. I love to Naruto," she said in a whisper. Even though his life was coming to an end, Naruto grinned because he was glad to have spent it with the person he loved through his hazy vision. Naruto could make out Sakura's words, however. He could feel the darkness surrounding him and could no longer hear her. All he could hope for was that he had done enough to keep those he loved safe. Shortly after, in his wife's arms, Naruto Namikaze, the sixth Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves, passed away. Sakura had tears streaming down her face and Hinata was crying when Sakura finished the jutsu, remembering one of the most agonizing experiences of your life was challenging Sakura would give birth to her son Minato, whom she named after Naruto's father, on her final night with Naruto. I must prevent this from happening, Hinata, but not only to save the man I love. If I fail to save Naruto, the future of our entire planet is in jeopardy. What are you referring to? In between sobs, Hinata asked. In that last battle, Naruto killed Sasuke. He even seriously hurt Madara. However, Madara managed to get away at the last second. A year later, he came back with an army from the southern continent, where he had been gaining strength ever since we were young. He was aware that his Moon's Eye scheme might not work out. He therefore always had a backup plan. What happened? Hinata inquired. His army attacked. The ninja villages had fought 2 major wars and had been weakened to a critical point. We were not prepared to defend against such a large force. We fought with everything we had, but with every land he conquered, his army grew while our allies became fewer and fewer. It took Madara nearly 10 years, but in the end there was no way to stop him. I believe that the only way to save our future is to end him before he can weaken the villages like he did. We have to keep him from capturing the tailed beasts at all cost. I intend to do that, even if I have to take Naruto's place to get rid of them for good. Hinata questioned. What? But how can you do that? I spend a lot of time researching Naruto. Trust me when I say that he is a genius when it comes to seals. He managed to alter the seal that sealed the 9 tails inside of him. This new version of the Reaper Death Seal allowed him to seal the other tailed beast inside of him, but unlike what Madara intended, it did not unite the tailed beasts. Instead, it used them as fuel for a powerful jutsu that Naruto used to destroy the Uchiha's army. I intend to stop Madara and Akatsuki before they can begin the 4th Great Ninja War, and if I am unable to stop them, I will use Naruto's seal to destroy the tailed beasts, or I will sacrifice myself. Sakura. Since you are the only one who can love him as much as I do, I want him to be happy. Hinata. I want to help you too. I don't want you to grow up to be as heartless and aloof as you did. What are you saying? It seemed as though a piece of you also perished when Naruto passed away. I didn't notice because I was too preoccupied with my own sorrow. You also did a great job of concealing your actual emotions, except for Neji before he passed away. My kids and I were the only people you really showed any affection for. When Hinata heard her cousin's name and that he passed away at some point in the future, she winced. The Hidden Leaf Village produced some of the strongest ninjas ever, including you, unquestionably the strongest ninja ever created by the Hyuga clan. But it was also very expensive. Your humanity was the cost. You were ruthless, cold, and calculating with everyone but my family. It was as if you had died inside. The enemy referred to you as the Hyuga's goddess of death because of your brutality in combat. As Sakura described her future self, Hinata stared at her in disbelief. Unable to picture herself, Sakura could see that Hinata struggled with confidence, and she needed Hinata to see what would happen to her if the future remained the same. Jutsu Memory Mirror. An older Sakura was leading a medical team to treat injured Leaf Ninja while a few others protected them from enemy attacks. As Sakura and her team worked to save the lives of the injured ninja, her guards were ambushed and overwhelmed by dozens of Madara's warriors. As Sakura was about to take over as guard to give her team time to flee with the injured, a lone figure emerged from the woods behind her and approached the enemy. Hinata watched as another memory was enacted. Hinata gasped when she saw a woman in traditional Hyuga robes walk past Sakura with a spooky calm. The woman was stunningly beautiful, with long flowing blue hair, immaculate ivory skin, and a figure that would make any woman smolder with jealousy. But despite all of this, she frightened Hinata because her lovely face was emotionless, as if it were carved out of stone. If Hinata had ever seen a Hyuga, this woman was a true Hyuga. The enemy was also terrified. Many of them paused, as though to think about whether or not to flee, but ultimately they attacked and perished. Hinata watched in awe as this woman, the woman who would be her in the future, utterly destroyed the enemy. They attacked her from every direction, but it was to no avail. She saw her future self move with elegance and speed like she had never seen before. Her hands glowed with power and moved like lightning. Every blow was deadly and on target. She watched as she dealt death to the enemy without hesitation or restraint. She was ruthless and ducked, dodged, and weaved through the attacks, moving like a dancer around her ass, dancing a dance of death. Hinata watched as her future self stood in the center of the clearing, the bodies of dozens of people scattered across the floor, and simply stepped over the dead as if it were nothing, continuing further into the battlefield without a word or even a hint of emotion in her face. The fight, if you could call it that, ended in a matter of minutes. Hinata couldn't help but feel a chill as Sakura cancelled her jutsu. Her future self's power and skill were truly amazing, but her ruthless and brutal personality terrified her to her very core. Was that her destiny? To become a heartless killer with no mercy or emotion? To become the kind of heir her father had always wanted? Sakura could see the internal struggle in her friend's eyes, and she needed to ease her friend's fears of the future because she knew Hinata would react strongly to the memory she had shown her. Hinata, I know that what you saw concerns you. I turned into a murderer. Sakura, all of us are killers and we are ninja. Hinata, I work as a medic. I've killed hundreds, if not thousands, of men and women, but I can tell you that it's my job to save lives, and if it meant my loved ones would be safe, I would kill thousands more. Hinata, our intentions also shape who we are, not just the things we do. That's not who I want to become. Sakura, then don't you can choose to become the person you wish to be. You haven't had the experiences that shaped you into that person. The death of Naruto and the betrayal of your clan were the main contributing factors. The treachery of my clan? What are you discussing? Your clan elders attempted to use your grief as an excuse to get rid of you. Shortly after Naruto's passing, you were very well liked in your clan. By that point, your father wished for Hanabi to take the helm of the clan, while Hanabi had been kept in the home guard at your father's request. You had developed into a formidable Jonin during the war. Hiyashi was aware that you would beat your sister in a match, therefore, he and the elders attempted to get rid of you in a different way. What took place? Hinata inquired. They attempted to coerce you into marrying a foreign aristocrat. It didn't work out for them. You never liked to discuss it, so I'm not familiar with the specifics. What I do know is that you killed all 5 of the elders during that meeting and made your father resign as the clan's leader. Hinata was appalled by what Sakura had told her. She could never have imagined that she would be motivated to hurt, much less kill, her family members. You eliminated the use of cage-bird seals as your first action. The Hyuga clan became a true family under your leadership. You fulfilled your lifelong dream. Even if it meant severing ties with that family, you transformed the Hyuga clan's ways and fulfilled Naruto's promise. Hinata's mind was in disarray once more. She had achieved her lifelong goal of bringing her family together, but she also lost because she killed family members. Hinata wanted to do everything in her power to bring her family together, but she wasn't sure if she could do it at the price. I'll help you develop into Hinata, the formidable ninja. You and Naruto will transform your clan together, hopefully without having to hurt your family members. But keep in mind, Hinata, that sometimes freedom requires the spilling of blood, or the shackles of slavery are unbreakable. Hinata nodded, saying that she would try her hardest to support her clan and would do so in a peaceful manner, but that she would be prepared to take necessary action when the time came. She merely hoped that she would never have to make that decision. Time would tell if she had made the right decision, but Sakura felt she had made the right one. She and Hinata talked for hours, and it was a huge relief to have someone to talk to. She now had someone she trusted to share her worries with, and someone who would know what would happen to her in the future.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.